Looks good. Canadian, yes, you are first. Welcome. Hello, random lurker. Let's actually make sure this is also pulled up well. Yeah, looks pretty decent. All right, think we're good to go. Just have to wait for everyone to show up. Hello, Vivi. Hello, Keiru. Hello, Elated. Yeah, I've somewhat adjusted the title for some things, because instead of just saying like 6-star tier list, because really we're ranking the full constellation, so need to make that a little bit more obvious, because otherwise if we just name it 6-star, everyone's going to come in thinking we're just rating the 6 stars. We got an Ekko. All right, one moment. Do you hear an Ekko now? There's no Ekko at all? Okay. Yeah, I don't see multiple windows open. App open 2 streams. Okay. So we're not actually going to be playing any 6-star champions today, because we've pretty much tested everyone we need to. We didn't play like Swain or Viego or Jinx, but I don't think we really need to practice those as much. So I think we'll just, go back and rate everyone, readjust everyone's rating. We'll go back and evaluate where we have placed them, and we'll have a good discussion with chat and see if people like that ranking, or if we think it should be adjusted. Like, maybe we should put Darius a little bit higher. I think that could already happen. We'll see. I should play again. Haven't in a few days. Other stuff going on. I did get most of the way through Devil May Cry 5 last night, and probably beat it the day before work. Nice. Oh, yeah, I'll just give it a couple minutes for people to filter in, and then we'll go back through and test everyone out. So yeah, we've a brand new tier list. We did add in Evelynn as well as Fiddlesticks. We'll go back and look at where we ranked them when we were testing them, and we'll also go back and look at where we ranked champions for their 5-star previously. Question, when do you expect to remake the tier list? Every year, or when it feels right? I normally need to do it at least 2 times a year, sometimes maybe 3. So some tier lists are very specific in their purpose, but for a general one like this, I'll probably have to do this at least twice a year, because new champions come in, new relics come in that change things. Like Caitlyn's a great example that if Fiddlesticks wasn't added to the game, she probably would be rated lower. So yeah, champions can get balanced, although we haven't really seen any champions with constellations get balanced. Like, some bugs have gotten fixed, but outside of bug fixes, I don't think they've actually done any balance changes to constellations. But yeah, well, you only need to do this a couple times a year. Gotta leave for work. Hopefully be back before stream ends. Well, hope you have a safe trip to work. All right, I think we'll... That'd be cool, to be honest. I think some buffs, even for once for full Constellation, would be interesting and, of course, nice. Yes, that's something that I'll maybe see if I can ask in a future interview. Just, do you think you'll ever adjust some of the constellations? Like, maybe change Volibear's 4th star. Anything like that would be interesting to know. Yeah, I think we'll drop our first ad break, and then once that's done, we will start ranking everyone for the tier list. Buff Norra 6-star, yeah. Neeko's Constellation is kind of garbage. I would say she is one of the worst ones, yeah. I do think her 6-star could be pretty strong, but overall, I think compared to the other champions, it's not the best. When are we testing Yasuo 6-star? Not for a while, because I don't have Yasuo 6-star. We were just testing the champions that we have at 6-star, but yeah, Yasuo is one of the ones that I have him at 5 stars. I have all of the parts of his constellation other than the gemstones, but it's going to be a while before I get his constellation, or his 6-star at least. Also, he's kind of the ones I was the least interested in. So I got one for Ahri and I got one for Lilia. So if I happen to get more fragments for Yasuo and there's no one else, I probably will. But I think he's one of the ones that really doesn't need the 6-star. I think Morgana doesn't really need it, but they could make her 6-star more interesting. Yeah, it is a little boring, but I feel like they're only going to change it if it's really, really weak. Ahri's 6-star is great, changes their game plan, makes it more dynamic. Yasuo's 6-star seems good, but it's overkill. Yeah, I don't think Yasuo's 6-star is bad, but I don't think he really needs it. I think he's already such a strong champion that getting the 6-star is not really that needed. All right, everyone should be back. Rocket, thank you for the follow. So we're going to start ranking for the tier list. So up first, we have Aatrox. So we'll go ahead and take a look at him. And again, we're evaluating the entire constellation other than like the gemstones, and I do not have Aatrox's 6-star, so I cannot vouch for, or I can't say how good it is from first-hand experience, so I will need a little bit help from chat. But let's just go over all the upgrades. So your normal 3 stars, when equipped ally strikes, reduce the cost of random card and hand by 2. Game start, create 2 random darken equipment. Arm to the teeth, allies with equipment or attachments have 2/2. Very good, because you want to have your equipped units so when they strike you get cost reduction. You're making equipment, and this is just giving you a lot of extra stats. So an extra 2/2 on all your units mostly is pretty good. Mana flow, also really nice. And then the 6-star, when you summon or transform a Darkin, double its stats. So this is going to be pretty impactful, and it should actually pair well with Arm to the Teeth and some of the other upgrades. Let's just quickly go through everything. So 8 regen, that is a lot of sustain. Like, Aatrox already has pretty good sustain, because when he gets strikes off, he heals up. But 8 regen after every fight, that's big. Support champs have Iceborne Gauntlet. Pretty much just giving you some free removal. Solid, but not the craziest of upgrades. This one's pretty big, though. World Ender gets double Chalice of Harmony. So 6 cost reduction. This is going to be pretty impactful, because this is how you level up Aatrox. This is how you transform most of your units into Darkin. And so while that is already good, that would pair really well with your 6-star, because then they all should also get double stats. Equipment you acquire in Adventure has Phage. Again, this should be good on its own, because any equipment on your units is already giving them 2/2. Now you're going to get equipment that has an additional 2/2. And then with your 6-star, when you transform a unit, all of the stats that they have, including the stats they get from like your 4-star, the equipment, should all be doubled as well. So it's kind of compounding on top of itself to make them absolutely massive. And each Darkin follower has a item, and the rest are the gemstones. So yeah, I think this should be fun. I think it should be pretty good for giving you really big units. But what are you all saying? Aatrox has fantastic Constellation, but he's still not as strong as a lot of the others. Mana Flow is probably all he really needs on Yasuo. Yeah, so yeah, I'd agree that Aatrox, I think he's going to be solid. I think you get some really good upgrades in here with your Constellation, and I think they have a great way of compounding on top of each other because you're getting so many other stat increases, and then you're doubling those stat increases. Also, the fact that you can level up Aatrox way better. This should be pretty good because Aatrox, his stats should get doubled when he's played, but then when you level up a champion, that counts as a transform, so then they get doubled again. So I think this should get you massive units. So I think it's going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be amazing. Now, taking a look at the tier list previously for... Oh, we had him down in the F tier, sadly. That feels pretty bad. I think he's good, but I think he is going to be a lot weaker than many of the other ones. I think a lot of other constellations go pretty hard and are quite crazy. Goodness. We don't really want to put a champion too high out of pity if we just think they're going to get kicked down. I feel like he could be maybe like the bottom of C tier, or sadly maybe D tier. I can't speak on him. Volley's a good example of 6-star being better than it reads. So I don't have 6-star. I'll leave it to others. Good morning, Rian. He's among the weaker ones with a full constellation, unfortunately. Agree with C or D. Yeah, that is a little sad. I think he's going to be very fun. I just think he's going to get outclassed by many of the other champions. So I think let's put him in the top of D for now. I'm hoping we don't have to put him in the F tier, but I think many champions will outshine him. With Swain Relic, Packed Powder build, it's not too bad. It takes a second to build a board, but once you transform, your Dark can usually win fights. You can heal a lot after each fight. But on higher difficulties, with 5+ units at the start, or fights that require more interaction, he's weak. I did beat the 6.5 Fiddle Adventure with not too much difficulty with 6-star Aatrox. That's good to know. Yeah, Aatrox can struggle. He is one that if you can get ahead early, he feels fantastic. But if you at all fall behind, he normally can really struggle. Now, I think that your 6-star can definitely help with that, because even if you're a little behind, if you suddenly have this unit that is absolutely massive, then that can really turn the tables for you. It's difficult since I don't have first-hand experience with him. I don't think too many units do. Once Aatrox is on the board, it's kind of over, but it's inconsistent as you want him discounted over other cards. His cost reduction mechanic is also unreliable. That is very true, and it can kind of hurt you because the more cards you have in your hand, then the harder it is to hit what you want. But the less cards you have in your hand, then the less tools you essentially have to deal with whatever the enemy's throwing at you. All right, I think we'll leave Aatrox in D for now. Again, this tier list, all the champions are just getting compared to each other. So he could rise or fall based on where we put everyone else. But yeah, based on what I've seen from everyone, I think he's going to be good, but I think most are going to outclass him. So I think we'll put him in the top of D for now. All right, next up, we have Ahri. Let's go and take a look at her. All right, again, we'll go over the whole constellation because we are comparing that for the champion. So when you recall an ally, summon or recall an ally, granted spirit, really nice that all your units get immediately a 1/1 buff, and you can keep stacking that. Units keep permanent stat buffs and keywords when recalled. When you recall an ally, reduce its cost by 1. Again, very strong keyword, or 2-star that's doing a lot for you. Making sure you keep all your buffs, recall an ally. You kind of feel like a better Lilia in most cases. So yeah, she's really good. Hold it, stun the strongest enemy. One of the best defensive powers in the game, and this can be really nice because for Ahri, you often want to spend the first round or two building out your board. And so just not really having to like worry about what the enemy's doing because of hold it can be quite nice. Mana flow, really good since you are trying to just be very aggressive early. That extra mana can really help you. The 6-star, when you recall an ally, it strikes the enemy nexus. So all your units have essentially Gatebreaker, except it's on recall, not summon. Very, very good. You can kind of ignore this and just let it be activated in the background and not necessarily build around it. Or you can just go for a full build that utilizes this and makes Ahri incredibly good. Bonus stars, extra rerolls. Support champs have Stalker's Blade. You can trigger this a ton of times since you can keep recalling them. Maker has Locket. Again, you can keep triggering this by replaying them. Spells you acquire have Mana Potion. This is actually excellent. Most spells you get are only 1 or 2 costs. So this is either making a spell free or reducing its cost by 50%. Dancing Droplet's Flash Bomb. It's nice, but honestly, it doesn't actually do that much. Overall, I think Ahri's really good. Here again is the 6-star, just in case my camera was slightly covering it before. So when you recall an ally, it strikes the enemy nexus. I think Ahri is really good, and she is one of the elements I really like with a lot of the constellations, is that she brings in enough power baseline that it doesn't matter what powers you get in the match. They're all just helping you win more, but you don't have to rely on getting anything. You have a game plan you bring it in, and you can just immediately dominate, and you just already end the game incredibly fast, just round 1, especially with like her him build, where you're doubling her stats, recalling her, and just getting these massive strikes off. You can consistently end like in the first couple turns, pretty much regardless of what the enemy does. Ahri's very good, has great build diversity. You can build her in a lot of different ways. Focus on your units, just focus on her. Not really reliant on what the enemy throws at you or getting the right items. Ahri, my goat. She's Ahri, right? Speaking of Ahri, I just remembered, did we figure out Ahri's 2-star means? So the 2-star only affects your units. It doesn't affect the enemy units. Her 6-star can always carry her through the weekly, so if you're struggling, I know I can rely on her while she's still using the Oath Ahri build. Yeah, she's incredibly consistent. I think that she is going to be one that we either put in probably the bottom of S tier or the top of A tier. I think there's a lot of good champions. We didn't rate her here in the previous one because we did play her a good amount. So this is kind of where we had other champions ranked. Yeah, I feel like she probably should go up near the end of S tier. High A, S in my opinion. Okay, yeah, that's same. Quick question, is it better to use current build or put Gatebreaker on her? I like my build better, because Gatebreaker, it's kind of rough having to sacrifice that slot. But you can swap it out if you want, or if you don't have one of those relics. Yeah, I think for right now, let's go ahead and put her in the S tier. I think she is very strong. Now, there is a chance she's going to get pushed out of here, but I think kind of mid to bottom of S or top of A is a very good spot for her. She is incredibly consistent, very strong, and overall just an excellent champion. She does have a good lot of viable builds too. Yes, I like that you can focus on your units and not just try to kind of be broken with Ahri and kind of do a cheese build. You can play her somewhat normally and still get a lot of extra damage, or you can just go for the Oath Him build, which definitely can get a little bit old, but it's incredibly consistent, so strong. If you just need something to win, you can, in most cases, just ignore the enemy and win incredibly quickly. All right, so I think let's put her there. And let's go and move on to Ashe. Ashe is actually not one that we did rate previously. Probably could have played it for that one. But previously, we had Ashe all the way down in the C tier because I think without her 6-star, she definitely struggles a little bit. But let's go look at her in-game. Did I just miss Ahri? Yes, we were just talking about Ahri. Alright, so for Ashe, got the whole Constellation here. Round start, Frostbite the strongest enemy, give it vulnerable this round. When an ally kills a unit with 0 power, grant your ally 1/1. This can be pretty nice because obviously there's a synergy with Frostbite, but also the synergy with the vulnerable you get for your 3rd star power. Your 4-star is incredible. Each round, the first time the foe summons a unit, Frostbite it. Really, really good because you're now Frostbiting the strongest unit every round. And then normally the enemy plays their strongest unit quite often first. And so that other unit is also getting shut down. This also shuts down modifiers that the enemy might have, like the first unit they summon gets 4 power and overwhelm. There's a lot of modifiers like that, and this also shuts them down. Really, really good. Mana flow, pretty obvious. And then here we have the Gift of Avarosa. So when you decrease an enemy's power, randomly distribute that much power among allies in hand. So this can have a little bit of an issue because the more units you have, the more targets it's getting spread out between. And so it might not hit exactly who you want. But really good and further incentivizes you to be able to go for Frostbites. And then makes the fact you already have a lot of Frostbite built in very, very good. Also, the stronger enemies you're going against, the bigger they are, the more power they have, the more benefit you actually get from this. So the stronger the enemy is, the more power you receive, which is quite good. Bonus stars, reroll and gold. Support champs have Stalker's Blade. This can be good because you can have your unit or your support champion sit in hand, get all that extra power, and then you drop them and they just kill whatever. Sadly, the Stalker's Blade is only targeting the weakest enemy. So quite often, they're just going to overkill by a lot, potentially. Would be nice if this was strongest. Oh well. Enraged Yeti has Philosopher's Stone and Great Club. This is okay. You do have some ways to generate this, and you can pick up more. To be honest, though, it doesn't actually make a huge impact throughout your games, mostly. But you can try to build around this. For Yordian followers, you acquire a Giant's Belt. Again, fine, not that big of a deal. Here's a good one, though. Flash Freeze, which is your champion spell, has Mana Potion, so it's even cheaper. You can get more of the Frostbites going, and this is one of your most consistent ways to Frostbite outside of your star powers. So overall, pretty good, and especially with this, you can do some very cheesy builds, such as just going for triple Gatebreaker Ashe, where you Frostbite the enemy as much as possible, you drop your Ashe on like turn 2 potentially, and you just one-shot the enemy Nexus. So it makes Ashe a very different champion. You're still focusing on Frostbites, but you can just sit back, be defensive, and eventually just completely annihilate the Nexus. It is pretty strong. Does have a little bit of inconsistency with the power being distributed randomly among your units. You can try to limit that, though, by getting a lot of spells, trying to play your other units as much as possible. Still a little random, and this does make you much more reliant on your Ashe and getting her in your opening hand. Overall, though, it does make her feel way stronger. I think a minimum for Ashe. The all-in Ashe struggles when you don't draw Ashe. Yes, that is true. And yeah, there are some things you can do. You don't have to go for full triple Gatebreaker. So you can go for a Gatebreaker and then like the Beast Within, so an Overwhelm Relic. Or also go for, the Cease and Desist. You do a free attack. There are other ways. You don't have to go for the Gatebreakers. I think the triple Gatebreakers, though, is often going to be like your simplest and kind of best build, as long as the inconsistency doesn't get you too down. I still enjoy that my 3-star Ashe pulled through and beat a 4 Nightmare at only level 20-ish. I don't know, she's fun. I always enjoyed this slow control mid-range decks. I'd probably go for Overwhelm and Grand General's Counterblend for the mana refill. The Beast Within and Black Shield for Ashe. Yeah, there are some different ways you can build Ashe. If you don't want to do this sort of more cheesy meme build, you can still go for other builds as well and just enjoy the fact that you're getting a lot of extra power on your units. But I think this can make her incredibly strong. So Joder, thank you for the subscribe, appreciate it. So taking a look at Ashe, she's one that often has been rated a little bit lower because a lot of the other control champions are just better. Like Frostbite is kind of the weakest control when compared to like Immobilize or stuns or just flat out removal. So previously we had her down in the C tier. This was when we were doing like the 5-star and below tier list. So I think she probably needs to go either B or A. It is going to be pretty competitive because we do have a lot of champions that are getting big increases. But I think she's going to be pretty solid. I'm kind of leaning towards bottom of A. What do you guys think? You're fine, Rivy. To be honest, I'll probably just edit most of that out of the actual video. A for Ashe is fitting. Yeah, I don't think we'll put her in the top of A. I think there's going to be other champions that deserve that spot better. Ashe is high A or low S in my opinion. I don't think that. I think we can put her in the middle. I think there's going to be some other champions that are deserving to be a bit higher, but I think starting her off in A is valid because she is very strong, and it's only unless we see a lot of other champions that just seem to be much better are we actually going to push her down. But I think putting her in A tier is going to be good. Ashe low to mid A. The power level in S is very high. A is fine. Yeah. So the difference in the pages, this one is the full 5-star tier list that we were doing. This one is where we gave some champions a preliminary ranking, ones that we could test but hadn't really played enough to really fully develop our thoughts on. And so this is where we were having some of the champions, but we don't have all the champions at 6 stars, or we either have played them enough that we don't really need to give them a preliminary ranking. And then here's our current tier list. So I think we'll put Ashe in the middle of A. I think that's a solid spot for now while we rate other champions. We're not really going to bother with Aurelion Sol because he doesn't really have a Constellation. He's only a 4-star champion, so we put him in the 4-star tier list. Doesn't have a 6-star. Maybe at the end we'll kind of say like, oh, he would probably fit in somewhere. But for now, we're just not going to bother. So next up we have Caitlyn. Now, Caitlyn, we did actually give a preliminary ranking of high B. The reason we're doing that was because of the addition of the Fiddlesticks relic. Previously to that, we had her in the very, very bottom of F, which felt pretty bad, but she does need a lot of her Constellation to really come online. So let's go ahead and take a look at her. Alright, so Caitlyn, let's go ahead and go through her Constellation. So your traps deal triple damage. Really good. Nice that this is broad and not just says your flash bombs. On the case, when an ally is summoned or attacks, plant a flash bomb trap in the top 8. Nice that this has some ways you can work around it of just summoning units and then also attacking. So potentially you can get 2 flash bombs per unit you play, if not more. Game start. Summon a Sting Officer, again able to trigger your 2nd star power to try to give you as many traps as possible. Mana flow, quite nice. This lets you drop your Caitlyn turn 1. Then we have perfect aim, which we'll take a look out in the Constellation section as well. But round start, create a ace in the hole. So 10 damage, overwhelm, slow, and then this can crit to do double damage. So create this every round if you don't have one. When one of your traps activate, reduce its cost. So while this is a 5 cost, you can often play this for cheaper. As far as some bonus stars, reroll in gold. Support champs have Sheriff of Piltover. This is absolutely massive, and this is when I'm summoned, create the Sheriff of Piltover in hand. That is a 2 cost, burst speed, plant a flash bomb trap on every single card in the enemy deck. The fact that this is a summon effect means that you can abuse this with like Stabilize, Shadow Totem, or just like killing your champion and then playing them again. Deathless. There's a lot of ways you can get multiple of these in every game, and then you're just completely filling the enemy deck with flash bombs, which is fantastic. House Wump has Shadow Totem. Great, because when I'm summoned, plant 2 flash bomb traps in the top 8 cards. So this getting another summon is great. Again, this also contributes to your second star power. Followers you acquire in the adventures have flash bomb satchels. Advanced Intel gets Tear of the Goddess, so it's just free. And so that's all of the upgrades. Now, very good upgrades, really helping you just get as many flash bomb traps, as possible. Again, here is the full 6-star. Now, Caitlyn does have an issue that the fact that she is using traps. Traps can be inconsistent. Now, while you do have a lot of ways to get a whole bunch of traps going and put them in the top 8, if the enemy doesn't draw traps, you're going to have a bad time. The thing is, we're considering that Caitlyn has all of her Constellation, at least other than the gemstones, and also her best build, which includes your Hex Tech Rifle, which gives you 6 flash bomb traps at game start, and then makes it so your traps can't miss. If they would overkill an enemy, if they would be drawn and not hit an enemy, they just get immediately shuffled back in. But when they activate, they still trigger effects like reducing down the cost of your ace in the hole. Obvious, very good power. Hidden Tome is fantastic. That way you can drop Caitlyn and immediately play your ace in the hole quite often. Or when you play your support champion, they can immediately play the Sheriff of Piltover that they're generating. So that's also very, very good. And then the Harmless Scarecrow, while it can freeze your games currently, that's bugged and that'll get fixed. This gives you more ways to generate or make the enemy draw cards. So when you play a card that costs 3 more, the enemy terrifies 1, so they obliterate a card from the top of their deck, and then activate any traps on it. Having another tool to force the enemy to draw cards is just incredible. Makes it so you can get some more damage with Caitlyn's level up effect. Makes your ace in the hole get some more cost reduction, gives you just more removal. That alone is excellent, but then it also has this bit at the end. While the enemy deck has 15 or fewer cards, allies have 2/2 and overwhelm. Normally you can end before this activates, but it's just giving you another way to help close out games. This makes Caitlyn feel very good. You can just have so much removal and feel much better as a champion. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. With her 6-star, I would dare say she's close to high B, low A. I mean, that's where we had her preliminarily before. Support champs become much more important part of after Constellations. Yes, your support champion is very big. I think Caitlyn is low A, high B. See you, Rivi. Thanks for hanging out. All right, let's go look at the actual tier list then. So I think she is quite good, especially with her best setup. And I think, yeah, low A or high B is really where she's going to be shining. Now, we did give her the top of B in our preliminary ranking, and I think that's still a solid place for her. Now, there's the chance she could get pushed up if we are putting a lot of champions in lower B and we think she should be a little bit higher. But I think if we put her in the bottom of A already, she's probably just going to get kicked out of there. Kate is definitely below Ashe. Yeah, I'm not putting Caitlyn above Ashe. Saw you play her yesterday, but I'm still not totally convinced. Maybe low A. Yeah, I think she's good. She's better than she was before. Remember, we put her in the F tier for the 5-star tier list. I think here, B is going to be a solid spot for her. And yeah, we do have Ashe above Caitlyn. But yeah, I think Caitlyn is pretty good. All right, next up, we are going to have Darius, but also an adds wine to drop. So if you need to go quickly get a drink, go to the bathroom, do anything like that, you have about a minute and a half, and we will pause and wait for you to get back. But we'll pull up Darius here while we are waiting. Also, Darkon, or Darken, should be an I. So Dark on, or Darko Nick. Thank you for the follow, appreciate it. Darius is in Darius tier. I think we maybe judged him a little bit too harshly before. I think he does have some pretty good power, but the 6-star is definitely not the best. But he is still really good. Darius should be low A. That seems a little high. I think we rated him a little bit too harshly before, but that's, I think, too generous. What champions do you want to see in Path of Champions, both LOR and League? I mean, I want to see Sion come to Path of Champions. All right, so let's take a look at Darius. Now, I think we probably rated him too low in our preliminary ranking because we're kind of focusing too much on the 6-star, and this is the full Constellation tier list. He is actually quite solid. So let's go ahead and look at this. Now we have each round, the first time you play an ally, granted 4 power and overwhelm. This is really good, giving you a lot of extra stats and some more ways to push through the enemy. Your 2-star is excellent. So +1 starting mana. Each round, the first time you attack with 15 or more power, you rally. So you can attack, rally, and then attack again. This gives you a lot of power very early, and then it pairs very well with your Noxian Might, because you can just get a lot of power. Quite often you can build around your support champion. You can get a champion that is like 2, 3, maybe a 4 cost, and just buff them up enough that you can drop them, attack, rally, and then end in like the very first round. So these two together are actually very good. You also have Hold It, Round Start, Stun the strongest enemy. This is really good because you don't want to block with Darius. Most of your units have very high health or attack pools, but very low health pools. And so you don't want your units to die because you want to be sure you're always attacking with 15 power if you can. The first round or two, that might not happen, but you want to make sure you can always hit this threshold so you can get 2 attacks in. And so making sure you don't have to block is nice, or at least don't have to block as much. Mana Flow, get an extra mana gem. And then Hand of Noxus, when allies attack, summon a random Noxian ally with cost equal to your mana gems. Now this is giving you a free unit. Now it's just being summoned on your board. It's not attacking alongside you. It's decent with your 2-star because you can attack twice in a round, meaning you can get 2 Noxian units. So that can be pretty good. It is kind of hit or miss on what units you're actually going to get. There's a lot of Noxian units that are very niche, that they fulfill a purpose, but you just want big units, the biggest units possible, and this isn't always going to hit that. I'd say as far as 6 stars, it is definitely on the weaker side. If you can be sure you can keep getting this rally, other rallies going, maybe get like a scout attack, free attack, anything you can do for extra attacks, this can actually be kind of crazy, giving you a lot of extra units and potentially actually some more blockers, but as far as 6 stars, it is on the weaker side. For bonus stars, Nexus Health and Reroll. Nice, so you're not as punished if you can't block all of the units. Your Star of Legends is actually pretty impactful. So support champs have Pickaxe, Colossal Hammer, or Titan's Axe. Unlike most champions, this is giving you more power for your support champion, meaning that these upgrades, when paired with also your Noxian Might, means you can hit the 2-star very easily. Either just with your support champion, or like your support champion and one other unit. So this is actually really good how they changed this from most other champions, where it's just like 1-1, 2-2, or 3-3. Here it's just leveraging all of the stats towards the actual power, which is what you need more. Death's Hand gain charge and sigil, so 2 extra damage. It's fine. Noxian followers and adventurer, Noxian followers you acquire in adventures have Pickaxe. Again, more power, more likely to trigger your 2-star. Pretty good. Legion Grenadier gets Ancient Coin. This is actually solid because it makes it go down to a 1 cost, but this also has the Spirit Stone, I believe it's called, so that when you play this, you get a fleeting copy in hand. So if you get some other upgrades, like your created cards cost 1 less, then you can immediately just have an infinite card that you can just keep playing as much as you want, at least in a specific round, which can be pretty good. So overall, he is actually pretty strong, and he can get quite crazy. As far as builds for Darius, you can go for some that focus on Darius himself, but he's also a great champion to just focus on like your support champion. So you go for like loaded dice, extra rerolls, and increased chance to find good powers. Stack deck to give you some more gold, so you can be sure you get the units you need, as well as giving them extra stats. And then Black Shield to protect your units to make sure you don't get frostbite, stunned, removed, and you can get that rally in. Now, previously, we were a little harsh with Darius. In our preliminary rankings, we put him down in the D tier. We were really focusing on the 6-star, but we are evaluating the entire constellation, and Darius is one that, while you are going into a match and you are kind of trying to find the right support champion that can really work for you, the right set of powers, if you just get a little bit lucky and get the right power, like just one of the right powers you need, or a solid support champion, you can go crazy. Now, he's not as good as someone like, for example, Ahri, where you can go into the match, you don't need to get any powers. Anything you get is essentially a bonus. She has so much that she's just immediately going to dominate. For Darius, you really are looking for a little bit of help to start destroying the enemy. But if you just get a little bit of that help, he goes crazy. So I think we were a little bit too harsh when we put him in the D tier previously. I think he is solid. He is on the weaker side. But I think we should maybe put him more in like the C tier. So still not the top half, but I don't think he should be immediately dropped in the D tier. Best Star of Legends in the game because the support champs are the real main champ in his deck. Often, yes, so it's pretty good. The 6-star is the biggest disappointment. Yeah, it's not the best. Because of how draft reliant he is, I don't think he can climb that high, but maybe C is okay. Darius should not be above Aatrox, in my opinion. I think he's around the level of Aatrox. Darius feels a little inflexible, I guess, unlike Ahri. All right, I think we'll do a poll. All right, so I'm going to do a poll of if you think Darius should go in the D tier or if you think he should go in the C tier. because I'm kind of conflicted. I'm leaning more towards C personally, but I do want to get some of how chat is feeling. Welcome back, Service. I feel like he's really strong. You can continuously attack and block with big units. I think it's refreshing that you have a champ you don't just play and you throw reroll relics and such. Service, thanks for the resub. And Luca Cortez, thank you for the follow. All right, so right now it is closer than most of the polls we've done, but it's still going for D. So I think we will put him down here in D tier. And some people probably want him above, some want him below. I think it's bigger. The bigger issue for me is whether he's in C and D tier. So I think we'll put him in here for now. Yeah, personally, I think he could be a little bit higher, but trying to definitely rely on the impact of chat, or just listening to you guys as well. All right, so let's move on then and talk about Ekko. Now, he is one that I did not have as 6-star. Previously, when we were looking at just the 5-star, we put him in the B tier. I think Ekko is a pretty good champion, great combo potential. But again, I haven't played him at 6 stars. Let's go take a look at him. All right, let's grab our Ekko, and let's take a look at his Constellation. So when you see a unit in a predict, grant it 2/2 and a random keyword. Your credit cards cost 1 less. This is actually really, really good. Just getting this baseline. Round start sorcery, refill your spell mana. This, the fact you always have spell mana every single round, means you don't have to try to bank any mana. Really excellent. And you have the cost reduction because you have a lot of created cards. These two are actually very nice together. And then mana flow, game start, get a mana gem. Obviously very good. And this lets you play your Ekko turn 1 if you're using Echoing Spirit, so he counts as a created card. The 6-star, when you see a unit in a predict, double its stats. So obviously you could see a unit multiple times in a predict, and this can just be absolutely insane, just getting these massive, massive units. For me, it doesn't seem as interesting as many other champions, but I think it's definitely strong if you like really big units. For bonus stars, 2 extra rerolls, that's quite nice. Your support champs have Guardian's Orb. I get what they're going for, because you play your support champion, and then some of your cards get these epic items, and you can look through your predicts to get them. To be honest though, with Ekko, I rarely play the support champion, and even if I do, I never really notice this doing anything. So for me, it's one of the worst out of Star of Legends for most champions, but it's something. Time Winder gets Charging Sigil. This is actually really good. Makes it go from kind of feeling useless to a decent removal spell. Spells that require have Hand Sensor. Gives you some more scaling, but again, kind of one of the worst Star discoveries in my opinion. Don't really like the Hand Sensor. Star of Wonder. Iterative Improvement have Oracle's Lens, giving you 1 extra predict. This is great for all of your effects that go off predict. So this is actually a really big upgrade. And then the rest are just gemstone ones. So yeah, here's the 6-star again. When you see a unit predict, double its stats. I think Ekko is already a very good champion. There's a lot of different ways you can build him. Crazy combos you can do. And I think especially his 4th star and his 2-star are really nice. Both of these just let you be able to spam so many cards. So both these together work out excellent. And the 6-star is just giving you a whole bunch of giant units. So I think Ekko is going to be pretty good. Again, this is one that I do not have direct experience with, but let's take a look. Previously, we did have him in the B tier, and I think he probably could stay roughly in this area. What are you all thinking about him? We love Ekko. Think he gets to be at least A. Sorcery is one of the better 4-star. Yep. Ekko's a lot of fun with the 6-star. Feel like you can play 10 plus cards a turn. Star of Legend feels awkward. Yeah, it's not great. Six-star is kind of boring, I agree, but he is high B. I don't know if he's better or worse than Kate. Seems fine, but I think that his 6-star is too combo reliant, so I think A or B. Yeah, so Ekko. I do think the 6-star is boring, but I do think he probably could go up in the A tier. That being said, I think some of these A tier champions might get pushed out by some of the other ones we have yet to rank, specifically like all of the ones we currently had in our preliminary ranking for A tier, like Vex, Lilia, Vayne, and Gwen. I personally think a lot of those are going to be stronger than Ekko, but I think we could put him in the A tier. Ekko is definitely better than Kate. Yeah, I prefer Caitlyn, but I think Ekko is probably more consistent. I have him fully built out, and he's one of my favorites, but I would not put him above Ashe. I think low A is a good spot. B. Hey, Toes just turned in. How's Aatrox D tier? It's clearly at B for 6 stars. I think a lot of the other champions just outshine him. A lot of the other ones are just sadly better. I think Caitlyn is more fun, but Ekko looks stronger. That's kind of my thought as well. So I feel like we could put him in like low A, but I feel like he's probably going to get pushed out immediately by some of the other champions that I think are better. But I think let's move Caitlyn over and put him at the very top of B, because I think this is more likely where he will actually end up. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's take a look at next at Evelynn. Now, Evelynn was one that didn't have a Constellation previously when we were doing our 5-star tier list, and I couldn't give her a preliminary ranking because sadly I do not have her at 6 stars. So let's go ahead and take a look at Evelynn. I think she's going to be pretty good. A lot of the changes they made to her are solid, and I think let's actually go over her starting deck because they did do some pretty big changes in here to what she had previously. So for one, they give you Ceaseless Sentry, which it does have the Last Breath effect, but at least it does give you some extra draw, and it's not asking you to kill one of your own units as directly, because this is where the Viper Worm used to be. So still a good change. The other one they did that is pretty big is they added in Siren Song. So summon a random husk, grant 1-cost allies everywhere 1/1. So this is excellent, giving you another husk, giving you a bunch of units. The fact that this gets Tear the Goddess and Grifter's deck, so later on, even if Evelynn is kind of capped out as far as level ups go, you can keep playing these, shuffling more into your deck, and just keep buffing up your units. So I think getting this in the deck and the upgrades it has is very, very good. Looking at the Constellation, they changed the 2-star, so the first time you kill an allied follower, so not an enemy, just only your own units, create a fleeting copy of it in hand. This is normally going to be killing one of your own husks, but technically it could be any follower. When you level up a champion or allied champion, grant allies everywhere 2/2. Very, very good, because also this buffs up your husks. So then when you play a unit that's already buffed by 2/2, they're also getting an additional 2/2 from the husk. Biggle Dust, when you summon a created ally granted 1/1, all of your husks immediately get an extra 1/1. Mana Flow, very good for Evelynn, so you can play her essentially turn 2. And Knight's Kiss, When an allied husk grants stats to an ally, it grants double the amount. So this, instead of just being a 1/1, it's now giving you units 2/2. And this gets kind of crazy because you can often have a husk consume a different husk, because when you consume a husk for the first time, you technically kill it. So you get a fleeting one in hand, so you can play another one. And so you can have a husk buff up another husk, which doubles the stats. Then you can play another unit, which then gets double those stats as well. So again, this is a situation where you're just compounding stats on top of each other. Already without this, Evelynn gets ridiculously massive units. I've been very impressed with her, and I don't even have this effect right here. So this is giving you huge scaling. Your units are going to be absolutely massive. Taking a look at some of the other powers, though. So 200 gold. Support champs have bonded bucklers. Not bad. Whatever keywords they're able to get, they can transfer over to another unit. We also have Last Caress gets Chalice of Harmony, so it goes down to a 1 cost, which if you also get then Echoing Spirit, this can go to a 0 cost, so that's really, really good. Follows you acquire an Adventures Have Great Club. This is quite nice because you can struggle with getting blocked out sometimes with Evelynn, so making sure you have more Overwhelm in your kit is nice. And then Hate Spike gets Charging Sigil, so it just does a little bit more damage. Going up to 5 damage, which is pretty solid. Also, we should note that with Evelynn, you have some very strong relic options because you're able to trigger your level up effects multiple times. But then she also has her relic, which we'll try to pull up here. Hopefully I don't. Okay, there we go. Siren's Call. So you can guarantee start with your Evelynn, which is kind of her biggest downside, is not drawing her. And then when you summon a husk, you can also block or attack with it, which is quite nice because sometimes like the entire enemy board might be stunned and you're just gonna have a husk sit there. Now you can actually have it attack and be able to get some more damage down. So I think Evelynn is very good. Just at her 5 stars, I think she's excellent, but your units are going to be absolutely massive with the 6-star. I think, yeah, she's going to be quite solid. Let's look at some of what you guys are saying, though. In my opinion, Evelynn is just so boring. I don't really think so, but, I mean, that's very personal preference. I can consistently get to 60 power, at least with her 6-star. At least A, in my opinion. A or S. Easily S tier. Think she's high A, pushing into S even. Okay, so a lot of you are saying high A or S. I think we'll do another poll asking if people want S or A tier. Because right now we'll either put her in the top of A or around Ahri. I could see her being potentially better than Ahri. We'll see. Yeah, let's throw down a quick poll. All right, so go ahead and vote if you think Evelynn should be in high A or if you think she should be in S. Because, yeah, I think she's really good, but I don't have the 6-star. Okay, I don't think Eve is better than Ahri. I'd probably put her in A below Ashe, but that's my bias. Not a huge Eve fan. Yeah, try to account for your own bias as much as you can. Shadowfighter, thank you for the follow. I don't have a 6-star, but she's already insanely strong, just 5 stars. 6 is a win more, I think, so I'd say A. All right, so currently the A's are winning. All right, so chat thinks that she should be A, so we'll put her in A above Ashe for the time being. Which, yeah, I think she potentially could go up into the S tier, but if we put her up there, there's a chance she could get pushed down. Yeah, I think she's an excellent champion, and I look forward to getting her 6-star eventually. Would you 6-star Fiddle or Evelynn? I 6-starred Fiddle because I just prefer that, but I think the Evelynn 6-star, it was much more enticing than I thought it was going to be. Going into the patch, I didn't really care about Evelynn nearly as much. After playing her, I was very impressed. So I did 6-star Fiddle, but I think Evelynn 6-starring her is not a bad idea. Cade Eve. Thank you for the follow. All right, so next up we have Fiddlesticks. Let's go ahead and take a look at him. We did do a preliminary ranking of him where we threw him up in the S tier. He's probably going to go back there. But let's go and take a look. All right, so Fiddlesticks, round end, Terrify 1 for each time you've damaged the enemy nexus this round. Very, very good. This is going to be great for just milling the enemy deck like crazy. +1 starting mana, game start, plant 3 copies of random followers from your deck in the enemy deck as nightmares. So you essentially can get those units for free as you draw them out of the enemy deck. Disarmed, enemies have -1. Decent overall because most encounters we're going up against have the deadly modifier, and so this is a decent counter to that baseline. Also, you have Fearsome, and so this is a good synergy with Fearsome as well. And then overall, it's actually just a decent defensive power. Mana flow, nice. And then Bountiful Harvest, we'll just get rid of that for a second. When you Terrify, grant enemies Gloom. So this is hitting the entire enemy board with a -1/1 every time you Terrify. And you grant a random ally 2 Spirit. Now, the 2 Spirit is just hitting a random ally, not your whole board. But still, with this, your board gets massive, and the enemy board normally just ceases to exist. Because at the end of the round, normally you're doing so much damage that you have enough Gloom that the entire enemy is dead. Looking at the bonus stars, reroll and gold, solid. Support champs have Corrupted Gatebreaker, so better Gatebreaker. Play I Strike the Enemy Nexus. Really good for 1, just flat damage. 2, triggering any Nexus strike effects. And then 3, you're just doing more damage on the enemy Nexus to trigger your Terrify. Baleful's Seeker has Corrupted Gatebreaker. Again, really good. For 1, this is triggering its strike effect, so it's immediately planting itself in the enemy deck. It's giving you more damage than enemy nexus and triggering your 3-star power, or contributing to it at the end of the round. Followers you acquire in adventures have Dreams of Yordles. This is actually insane. Many other champions have followers that cost this or more or less, or followers from this specific region. And quite often it's followers that cost 3 or less have studded leather, so 1/1. This is just all followers you acquire, no limitation on it, and it's not only giving them 1/1, but it's also giving them impact. That is insane, because they're all bigger, obviously, but the impact is giving you 1 extra damage on the enemy nexus, which gives you 1 extra Terrify from your 3rd star power. Impact is great for you. Sure, stacking it up can be nice, but you just want any extra little ticks of damage. This is insane. This is one of the best Star of Discoveries in the game. This is really, really good. Star of Wonder, Forgotten Terror has Immortal, +1 Deathless. Normally I don't have this die at all, but it's just making it even better. And so that's it for his upgrades. His upgrades are pretty crazy. The 6-star is giving you tons of power. And Fiddlesticks, especially with certain builds, absolutely wrecks. So you have his relic that gives you extra Terrify as well as Overwhelm and stats on your units. With the Norra relic, you're getting, again, even more impact, so you can trigger your 3rd star power even more. And same with Shock and Awe. With this, you do have to try to build around it and try to draft 1-cost units. But again, you're just getting a ton of extra damage. You can mill the enemy. So even if they have something that's protecting their Nexus from dying, like Cage Fight or Cage Match, you still can go through that. Overall, Fiddlesticks is kind of ridiculous. With his 6-star, he has everything. He has scaling on your side. He has removal, or at least reducing down the enemy's units. even if they are protecting their Nexus, you're still able to mill it down. You're just able to do a lot and pretty much shut down whatever the enemy throws at you. So he's probably just going to go up in the S tier. I don't think anyone's really going to fight with that. Probably the biggest fight is going to be where he ends up going in relation to some of the other champions. Swain levels of goodness. I like how 6 stars in the middle, rather thematic. I love how Star Discovery is always just the good one when it comes to bonus stars. Ashe is definitely not S tier. She's good. We have her up in the A tier, but yeah, S, I don't think so. You win in 2-round deck out or in 3 rounds attacking. Have him at 5 stars, destroying everything. Can't imagine what 6 stars is going to do. We're measuring the entire champion. All right, so yeah, I think we're just going to put him in the S tier. And the biggest issue we're going to have later is just how he ranks to some of the other S tier champions. Right now, I'm not sure about Viego and Swain, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, let's put him in Ashe and move on to Gwen, although another ad's wanting to drop, so if you want to go to the bathroom, do anything, get a drink, go ahead and do that right now. I think I'll actually go for a moment myself. All right, everyone should be back. And next up, we are looking at Gwen. All right, so let's take a look at the Constellation. So we have round start, summon a ghastly band. When your leftmost attacker gains power from Hallowed, so does the attacker on its right. This gives you essentially 2 more big units, and if you have Gwen in the second slot, she gains the power of the first one as well, so she gets it like twice. She can double dip on this. Crush, allies have Overwhelm. Really, really good for you. Mana Flow, also excellent. And then Last Dance, game starts, summon 4 Ghastly Bands and Rally. Normally the Rally doesn't matter because you're often starting with the attack token anyways. But also this counts with your 3-star, so you're actually summoning 5 Ghastly Bands round 1. Which is pretty good for you. Lets you drop your Evelynn round 1. She can level with the Disciple of Shadows. And so you just put a ton of pressure on the enemy early. Extra Nexus health and gold. Pretty good. Support champs have double attack, which is pretty crazy. So if you don't draw your Evelynn or your Gwen, at least you are getting a unit that has double attack, which is really good. Sapling Toss is Hexstep Fabricator. Follows you require, get the Hallowed Ghastly Band, which is the thing you're summoning so many times. Gets the Skirmishing Saber, and that's it as far as Constellation. Pretty good upgrades in here. A lot of strong effects. Your Gwen is still going to be fairly champ reliant, but at least your support champions do have that heavy hands, which is quite nice. She's able to put a ton of damage down and often just end in the very first turn. So you can go for like Gale Force, you can immediately attack twice in the first round. This is really good because Hallowed is a effect that only lasts for the round. So being able to attack once, get your Hallowed buff, and then attack again while you still have that hallowed buff, and then get it on top of itself. Very, very good, especially since your skill when you level goes off of your power, which is what hallowed gives you. Disciple of Shadows lets you play her immediately, level her immediately, and then Ludens doubles the effect of your skill, essentially. Overall, very strong, tons of sustain. As long as you draw your Gwen, she pretty much ends turn 1 most of the time. If you don't end turn 1, she is going to get kicked back into her deck if you're using Gale Force. But yeah, I think she is very solid champion. Previously, we did have her in our preliminary ranking. We had her in the A tier. Now, we think some of the other champions were a little bit stronger in the A tier, but I think she definitely was solid. And so I think she should probably go back in the A tier, although there's a chance she gets cooked down or kicked down to B. Overwhelm 2, so double attack is guaranteed to go through. Yes. Love Gwen. I think 6-star for Shadow Isles. Probably 6-star her instead of Viego. Gwen's self-heal at least A. Her 6-star sounds super unique. Low S, but still S. I don't think I'd want to put her in S tier. She's A. Yeah, I would think that she should be an A probably to start. She might get kicked down. Bottom A tier, I'd say her OTK is very strong, but a bit too vulnerable to Frostbite and removal. I mean, the one good thing about Frostbite is you get so much power. They normally Frostbite you before you attack, so you can kind of deal with it. But yeah, it's still, she is very vulnerable if it getting shut down. All right, so I think we'll put her in A tier for now. Very strong OTK potential, but you are very susceptible to getting your Gwen shut down. And if that happens, that is your main win condition, and you're probably going to have a bad time. You normally can still end up drawing her again and being able to attack, heal back up all the way, and still end. But there's a lot of other champions that can pretty much do the same thing she does, as in end turn 1, but they're a little bit more consistent at it. So yeah, I think we'll put this here. Toast, if you don't mind the question, where are you from? I currently live in the US. I was mostly raised in Canada, and I was born in Venezuela. So, a lot of places. All right, I think we'll put Gwen there, and next up we have Heimerdinger. Now, he is one that I don't have at the 6 stars, so I wasn't able to do a preliminary ranking on him. But as far as our previous tier list, we had him in the B tier right around Ekko. So let's go take a look at him. All right, so there's Heimerdinger. For his Constellation is pretty much tech. So tech allies in hand and play have a random upgrade from an improved pool of upgrades for each time you've spent 6 or more mana on spells. This is great because it works as like a aura, so even if your units get like frostbitten, or if they get especially like silenced, most of their effects don't go away. This can sometimes backfire because it can give you some effects like Formidable. While it does normally also give you some extra health to compensate, sometimes if you already have a ton of power, that's kind of hurting you. When you summon a unit, refill 1 spell mana. This is insane. This is an incredibly good 2-star. You kind of actually feels like a better version of the Nami one. Pretty much all of your units have Attune. This is excellent. When you get good at playing around this, you feel like you almost have infinite mana. It's so good. When you summon a created ally, grant it 1/1, so that's mostly your turrets. extra mana gem, solid. And then Eureka, tech allies in hand and play, start the game with 3 random improved upgrades, so just immediately your units are getting keywords and stats. And then game starts, summon a wind-up shredder, so you're just immediately getting a tech unit. It's going to get an extra 1/1 right here. It does have challenger, and it's getting 3 upgrades right away. So it's just really helping you start the game with a pretty good tempo advantage and just trying to dominate. As far as bonus stars, reroll in gold. Support champs have tech evolution, so augment and tech. The big thing is the tech, but augment is also pretty good to make sure that they also get scaling when you play creative cards, which is going to happen a lot. Hex Obliterator gets charging sigil, so it does 10 damage, pretty big. Follows you require that costs 3 or more, also the tech evolution. Concologist, tech evolution, and that's pretty much it. Overall, I think Heimerdinger is pretty good. You can go for a turn 1 build with him with Swain Relic, Packed Powder, and then using his Relic, you also give him tech and give your Nexus tough. I think he is pretty solid. He's kind of one that doesn't seem totally insane to me, but at the same time, he is quite strong. Taking a look at the tier list, I would think to put him in the A to B category. I would say he's probably better than Caitlyn, and then I think it's probably debatable if he's better or worse than Ekko. I struggle from not seeing a single 6-star Heimer game. He does very well in Nightmares. I've beaten them all with breeze. One small problem with Heimer is that he needs another turn to be summoned, so I don't know. Not if you go for kind of his best build, which we're trying to consider that all the champions have the best build. Heimer's a solid B, I'd say. Sometimes you just get bad upgrades. Yeah, that is true. Like, the 6-star is trying to help that, and then trying to get as many spells going as possible, but you can just get some bad upgrades. I think I'll put Heimer right below Ekko, I think. To me, Heimer is C. If you high roll, 100 power, you feel like a god, but if you low roll Formidable or Sea Monster, you feel absurdly bad. He's extremely inconsistent and too RNG reliant. I wouldn't say he's extremely inconsistent. From what I played of him, he's actually very consistent. I normally didn't get any of the extreme upgrades one way or the other. So I don't think I ever got the plus 100 power on him. And then I did get Formidable fairly often, but it didn't actually really hurt me. No way he's in the same category as Kate or Ekko. I don't know if you mean that's because you think he's too bad or too good. Low A. He doesn't feel OP, just really fun. Worse than Ekko for sure. Low B to C. Interesting. He has high variance more often than not. He seems to high roll. His 6-star adds a lot of randomness to him, but he is far stronger than Kate. Inconsistency is why Darius is in D tier, so Heim should be in C tier. I mean, in my opinion, he's not that inconsistent. Now, that is just him at 5 stars, and I feel like he should be even more consistent with his 6-star. I feel like people highly underestimate Fiddle. I mean, we have him in the S tier. Otherwise, okay. All right, this is everyone. Most people, it's much more. It's not as divisive. Heimerdinger seems to be very divisive. With 6-star, he is really consistent. Just once in a blue moon, you get something bad. Yeah, my experience as well, I wouldn't call him inconsistent. Is there the chance you can get completely screwed? Yes. Yeah, pull potentially. All right. So I'm going to do a pull. So whether you think he should be an A, B, or C, I personally think he should probably be in the B tier. But I've seen some people think that he should be all the way up in A. Other people think he should be all the way down in C, which is kind of crazy to me, but we'll throw that out there. So go ahead and vote for what you think is best. He's weak without mana powers and good items on his 1 mana scalable summon spell. I would die on a hill of Kate being better. Interesting. Jay Hondex and Guy, and also Ming. Thank you for the follow. C tier is going to be strong on this list. C isn't bad. I agree C isn't bad, but I still would think Heimer should be somewhere in here, I think. All right, the vast majority of people right now are saying B tier. I think to play, he doesn't feel as good as Ekko when it comes to power. B below Ekko. Yeah, I'll put him in B. And I feel like he's probably stronger than Caitlyn. So I feel like we should probably... I think right there would look pretty good for him. Again, we're still going to be ranking all the champions, and since they're all based on each other, some of these might get pushed down. But I think let's put Heimer there. Didn't realize he was going to be quite so divisive. Also, we have another one that's probably going to be pretty divisive. Jayce. Again, another champion that I don't have at 6 stars, so we couldn't test, but I think his 6 star is going to be very, very good. We take a look at the other tier list. We had him in B, actually above Ekko and Heimerdinger. Again, though, these three, I think, are very much down to personal preference, and these ones could really be swapped. Like, every person would probably have a different placement for these, essentially. But let's go and take a look at him. All right, so taking a look at his Constellation. When you play a 6-cost spell, reduce the cost of non-spells in hand by 1, then give allies 1 power and a random keyword this round. Really good for just being able to buff up your board. You normally are able to get a whole bunch of good keywords for both sneaking by the enemy, so getting like normally Overwhelm and or Elusive. Also, normally some of your units are going to get Lifesteal, because normally with this you have a whole bunch of units. +1 starting mana, around start, create a Hex Tech Anomaly. So every round, this becomes a different 6-cost or higher spell. So you always have something to play, or at least attempt to play. And then gearing up, game start, summon 2 armed gearheads. Actually pretty good, so you always have units on the board that are going to be getting, or you're going to at least start with units on the board to try to get this. Also, this pairs really well with the acceleration gate that we'll get into later. I know a lot of people, myself included, thought this was kind of a boring 4-star. Actually works pretty well for you. Mana flow, get a mana gem. Nice. Then Hex Tech Infusion. After you play a 6 or more cost spell, deal 10 to a random enemy or the enemy nexus if there is none. I think this is actually going to be really good because you can play a lot of 6-cost spells, potentially in your second round, or even pretty much every round you're playing a 6-cost spell. So you're just dealing 10 damage to a random enemy or the enemy nexus. So pretty much the same thing as like Caitlyn, but you're often having this go off multiple times because you have a lot of ways to get some spell duplication. So looking at your bonus stars, reroll, and regen. Support champs have Iceborne Gauntlet. Again, similar with like Aatrox. Gives you free removal. It's fine. Forge Worker has Phage. This is much better than the Ashe one for your Yeti. Both of these are buffing a card you don't directly have, but a card you can generate. But here you have multiple ways to generate the Forge Workers. Giving them all 2/2 is quite nice. Spells you acquire in Adventure that cost 6 or more have Elixir of Sorcery. So immediately they're going off twice. So they're already doing double their effect, whatever that could be, which for a 6-cost spell is normally going to be good. It's also hitting your Hypercharge twice. So it's buffing up all your units, giving them random keywords, reducing the cost of all your non-spells in hand. And then it's also triggering your 6-star, so you're doing 20 damage to random enemies or enemy nexus. So that is insanely good. Pharaoh's Financier has Crystal Carrier, giving you extra mana. Really good, because often you want to go for your Chemtech Duplicator. Yeah, this one especially is insane. And if we take a look at Jayce himself, so when he levels, you make his Acceleration Gate. That Acceleration Gate give allies 2 power and quick attack this round. If they already have quick attack, or if they have double attack, give them a random keyword instead. So Jayce, you can give him quick attack. You can then also your 2 4 costs, or your 4-star that's giving you 2 1 cost, the Gearheads, both of them have quick attack, so they're also getting other keywords immediately. This is very, very good. But when you take up Jayce, each round, the first time you play a 6-cost spell, copy it with the same targets. So if Jayce is on the board, he is also doubling your spells, and then you also have your other effect, your like Star of Discovery, that's also doubling your spells. So a lot of these effects are going off multiple times in a single round. So you're buffing up your units like crazy. You're getting crazy cost reduction on everything that's not a 6 cost. And you only have this doing tons of removal and tons of damage to the enemy nexus potentially. I think Jayce is going to be pretty insane. Quite often you can also go for like Chemtech Duplicator build with him. And so you can get even more duplication. While I don't have his 6-star, I think he's already good at the 5-star. And I think the 6-star is just going to crank it up to 11. And I think he is going to be pretty crazy. Again, though, that is slightly speculation on my part. Let's see what you guys are saying. I've seen Jayce played before, but not too sure. Somewhere in B. Jayce feels great to play, but I'm a bit biased as he is my favorite. Jayce's 6-star is fantastic. I love him. B going on A tier. He has a high chance to roll lifesteal. He's great. Only wrong thing with Jayce is how his Constellation is built. Yeah, it can be a little bit of an issue. Feels great to remove big stuff on Nightmare and other hard adventures. His 6-star also goes through Spell Shield. Nice, that makes sense, because it shouldn't be a spell, but I didn't think about that, so that's good. Jayce would be an easy S if he worked with base cost. I don't have Jayce 6-star myself, hard to test. They're probably close in power. I think you're talking about Ekko. Probably also B tier. The question is if he is above or below Heimer. I think overall he's a solid A. Constellation add a ton of power to him. At 3 stars, pretty underwhelming, a lot like Kate. Acceleration Gate is a great finisher. Yeah, he is super consistent. Often you just drop Gate, drop Jayce, make the Acceleration Gate, play it, and just end the game. Solid B, low A. Really strong, 10 damage is actually crazy. Okay, so a lot of people are saying high B or low A, which I would also agree with. All right, so we have Jayce. I personally would put him above everyone in B tier. I don't know if I kind of feel like I'd like him better than Gwen, but that could be too much. I think if we put him in A tier, I think he's going to end up getting kicked out as we fill this out. But I think I would put him at the top of B. So I think let's go for that. And yeah, the power level in this area is pretty close. And I could see an argument for him being up here more in A. But I think that's somewhat potentially just the fact I liked him so much. Yeah, seems good. All of P and Z1s do feel similar in power, so I could see that definitely happen. Yeah, like a lot of these really could be just your own personal preference on the order you want to put them in. But I do think they're all pretty close. Jason B tier is correct option. Alright, so yeah, next up we have Jinx. It's all of the P and Z are very close together. Let's go take a look at her. We didn't test her for the preliminary tier list, but just because we played Jinx a bunch. Previously, we actually had her lower. So yeah, we actually had her pushed down to top of A for the 5-star tier list. But let's go ahead and take a look at her in game. Alright, so taking a look at her Constellation. When you play or discard a card, deal 1 to the enemy nexus and a random enemy. When you level up a champion, create a super mega death rocket in hand. Round start sorcery, very good. Mana flow, also excellent. And then get jinxed. Your spells and skills deal double damage. So your super mega death rocket, doing 6 to the enemy nexus, and then 2 to all units baseline. Now note that this is just spells and skills, so that doesn't affect like your other powers here. As far as bonus stars, reroll and gold. Support champs have focusing crystal. Pow Pow has charging sigil. This one is actually big because with the 6-star, this is essentially doing 4 damage. So this is now going, like this is getting doubled, so it's going from 3 to 6, and this is going from 2 to 4. So essentially this is doing 10 damage per Pow Pow, which is very big. Damage and spells you acquire in adventures have charging sigil rank 2, but again, this is going to be doubled because of the 6-star, so you're really doing 4 extra damage. And then the star bounty, 200 gold. Now with Jinx, I think she is pretty good, especially with the right build. So going for like a loose cannons payload, so you make a whole bunch of Pow Pows that each one are doing 10 damage. You're immediately leveling her, you're getting 2 super mega death rockets, because your 2-star makes it, and then Jinx herself makes it when she levels. So you get 2 of those at the start of the game. If you go for something like Big Guns or Ludens, the extra damage goes up by 2 instead of by 1. Because of your 6-star. So your Super Mega Death Rocket can then be doing like 5 damage to all the units. I guess it goes up... no, it's like 6... like 8 damage to all the units. Or 8 damage to the Nexus, sorry. And 4 damage to all the units. It's a lot. So she is, with her 6-star, still pretty crazy. The doubling effect is really good. The fact that your Pow Pows can do like 10 damage per shot is insane. So I know a lot of people kind of don't like her because she was the first champion. She can be pretty boring. But she is still very strong. She's one of the best options for clearing entire enemy boards round 1. Swain still has her beat, but she is really good. Low A, low S. S, let's go after Kaisa. The only nightmare that Jinx goes bad are the cost increase ones in Fiddle. She stomps everything else turn 1, I agree. Vex's Star of Discovery is a straight upgrade of Jinx. They're pretty much the same thing. The Jinx one is 4 baseline, and then, or the Vex one is 4 baseline, and Jinx it's 2, but then that gets doubled, so they're pretty much the same thing. She also can burn Nexus easily with a few spells. Boring but super effective, yes. Think she's high A since a lot of strong Constellation. Swain just scales better. She's OP for me, but feels underwhelming. I've seen people struggle with 6-star Jinx into a lot of nightmares. I think there was a 6.5 that people struggled that I cleared easily with Ekko. I think Jinx can clear most nightmares very easily. Now, there are some, like the one that you have all your created cards cost one more. Yes, that one is pretty annoying for Jinx. But most other ones, I think she really dominates. I would probably put her in S tier. I think she would be below some of the best ones, but above like an Ahri. So I think she's still very good and can dominate most things very easily, but she's not the best champion in the game anymore. But I think she would be low S tier personally. So does anyone really have an issue with putting Jinx in the bottom of S tier? What's the best consistent rare relic build for Jinx? That'd be like her relic and then potentially double Scourge's stash. Sounds good, no problem. Don't agree, but we can continue. Okay, so most people fine with the low S. I think, yeah, most people are going to be okay with her being low S or high A. So some people might slightly put it differently, but in this area is pretty good. All right, next up we have Kai'Sa that we'll be taking a look at. But an ad is wanting to drop, so go ahead, go to the bathroom, go get a drink, do anything, and we will be bringing up Kai'Sa here, and we will hold off until everyone gets back. All right, let's pull up Kai'Sa. There we go. Kai'Sa D tier. Oh, this gives me a chance to try to drink. Kamzi Jungle, thank you for the sub. 4 months confirmed. The next one is Jin. Yeah, you don't have to use Gale Force for Kai'Sa. It's something that's solid, but just throwing on another decent relic, especially if you're ever at 6-star, just going for another one that has whatever keywords you want. So if you want to get like quick attack or go for maybe Black Shield to give everyone spell shield, that wouldn't be bad. Do we have a 3-star level 30 tier list yet? I mean, yes. It might be a little outdated, but yes. What about the built over and Bond meme? Oh. Yeah, spell should be great. Why didn't I think of that? Can we get an updated one? Potentially. Alright, everyone should be back. Let's break down Kai'Sa. So round start, grant your strongest ally random positive keyword. Void touched. I mean, actually, we'll just jump to the 5-star because it's just the upgraded version. Allies with 3 or more positive keywords have 2/2. Allies with 6 or more positive keywords have 4/4. Kai'Sa is the only one that has a special 5-star. Dragon's Rage, when you summon an ally, granted Fury, it's a dragon, which is fine, but also you're giving all of your units another keyword, so that's good. Wield the Abyss, round start, create a second skin in hand. When you target an ally with second skin, give it Kai'Sa's keywords. This is great for both saving keywords on your Kai'Sa, but then every single round you can give a unit all of Kai'Sa's keywords, which they get all of those keywords, which is really good. That's going to trigger your evolve, and then it's also going to give them 4/4 from your Void Touched. As far as bonus stars, Nexus Health and Reroll, good. Support champs have Scout. Also can be good. You can potentially not use Gale Force and just try to rely on your support champions and steal their Scout. Elder has Speed Wraps, another keyword, solid. Followers you require have Bright Staff, also good. And then second skin has Hand Sensor. Not that big of a deal, but since you're playing this for free every round with a 6-star, it is actually pretty nice. Kai'Sa is insanely good. You can get a bunch of keywords on her and then just give them to units every single round. That is excellent. Kai'Sa also is a very strong win condition because when you play her, she gives you another second skin. So you have Kai'Sa with all these keywords, and then you have 2 second skins. You can then give all those keywords to 2 other units. They also get all these stats. So if the enemy hasn't died yet, when you play Kai'Sa, you essentially have 3 massive units with insanely good keywords, all attacking and just closing out the game. Kai'Sa is excellent. You don't have to rely on her because even if she's not on the board, you're giving a unit every single round a ton of stats and keywords so they can just dominate for you. 6-star Kai'Sa is insanely good. Taking a look at our preliminary tier list, we put her in the bottom of S. Looking at her previously, we had her all the way down in the D tier. And that's because without her 6-star, everything doesn't quite come together, but with the 6-star, everything works out amazingly. So, for Kai'Sa, I would either put her in put her in A tier or potentially put her in the bottom of S tier. S tier, if you find a lifesteal unit, you're basically unkillable. I feel like low star Kai'Sa feels not as good, but 6-star is insane. Definitely. I think she goes right behind Eve. Bottom of S, I think she's better than Eve. Top A, low S. She's not champ reliant, so at least S tier. The biggest thing is if we would put her in S tier, she would have to probably kick Ahri down. Because we already are having like multiple champions that are going to come in the S tier. If we just put her right here, she's immediately going to get shoved back down. All right, I think we're going to do a poll just kind of saying where she should go in the A tier. Because, yeah, I think if we put her up in S tier, she's immediately going to get kicked back down. All right, so we'll do a poll if people think she should be above Eve and go in the top A here, or if she should be right below Eve. Too many champions are going to be kicked into tiers they don't belong in. I mean, the thing is, it's all just relative based on each other. So if all the champions are better, then they do belong there. All right, so currently a lot of people are saying above Eve. That's currently winning. I think Eve, Ahri, and Kai'Sa are all better than Jinx. Do you have 6-star Jinx? All right, everyone's saying above Eve. So we'll drop her over here. And we'll put Kai'Sa right there. Eve is inconsistent without her pay-to-win relic. I mean, yes, but well, actually I wouldn't say yes, because you could go for Echoing Spirit, but we are considering people have their best build possible. Mandatory disclaimer that even low tier champions are still super powerful at 6 stars. It's just who's more powerful than anyone else at this point. Yeah. Alright, so we'll put Kai'Sa there. Next up we have Lilia, which we'll see where she goes. Previously we put her in, our preliminary ranking was putting her in A tier. And then as far as her at 5 stars was also A tier. Alright. I don't have it as seen to play a ton. Alright, so let's go ahead and look for Lilia. Alright, taking a look at the Constellation, I guess we'll first just bring up the 6 star. So each round, the first time you play a unit, summon an ephemeral copy of it attacking. Now, some people, for some reason, want this to be a summon effect. As in, the first time you summon a unit, summon an ephemeral copy of it attacking. I personally think that's a worse version, because this is only the first time each round. So, if this was a summon effect, that means this would get triggered by effects like when you're summoning a Poro every round start, or your sapling, so it would often get wasted on kind of crappy units. So the fact that this is a play effect, and so it's not the first, or it is the first unit you play, not the first unit you summon, lets you choose exactly who you want this to go on. So the fact that it's a play effect, I think, is better than it being a summon effect. Taking a look at the rest of the Constellation, when you summon a unit without playing it, granted Spirit twice. So that is solid, because you are trying to do this a lot, and every time you sleep a unit, they're immediately given that, or it counts as being summoned again. Round start, create a blooming bud in hand. If you already have one, reduces cost by 1. Solid to get some more ability to sleep. You can do this on your units or enemy units, so it gives you some good control. Crush, allies have overwhelm. Not that good early on. Like, it's always solid, but this really helps with your 6 star. Mana flow, always good, especially with a 3 cost champion. We already went over the 6 star. Bonus stars, we have Nexus Health and Gold. Support champs have Stalker's Blade. Really nice, because you can trigger this immediately, put them to sleep, summon them again, have them just keep getting more strikes off, so that's nice. Dreamlight Alina has Double Time Watch, making this much more playable, because if you then get this on the board, you can keep putting this to sleep, and then it's going to just keep triggering its summon effect, which is just going to buff up your whole board. Not that bad. Follows requiring adventures that cost 4 or more have Pickaxe. Not a huge fan of this, because I don't like its follows you require that cost 4 or more, because often you're not wanting to necessarily get those followers anyways. So I think this is actually one of the worst startups discovery in the game. I don't like it. But here's a really good one. Your Dream-Laden Bow has Stopwatch. This is the spell you make with your champion when you summon them when they get a strike off. This going to burst speed is fantastic. So that is really, really good. For Lilia, she can be very strong, and you can build her in many different ways. So you can go for a build like this, where you can summon a Lilia, get some Stalker's Blades to go off, go for Fear Cleaving Action, buff up your units. You can also go for the Everfrost, where when you're summoned, you stun the enemy. So you can do multiple of these, or even just one on your Lilia, so you constantly can be controlling the enemy. You can go for like Guardian Orb build. There's a lot of different ways you can play her into what content you're going into. If you need a ton of removal, you can do that. If you need a ton of control, you can do that. If you need a ton of scaling, you can do that. Or you can kind of have a mix of all of those going together. So Lilia can have some very strong turn 1 builds where you end in the first round, similar to like a Vayne or Gwen. But unlike those champions, you can also build Lilia in very different ways to handle different situations. With Vayne and Gwen, they're much more of, okay, we're going to try to OTK, and that's the pretty much whole game plan. Lilia is much more versatile, which I think normally gives her the edge. Probably A should, or probably B should be A, but there's no way she's breaking in there and actually staying. Yeah, 2 measly attack on 4+ units seems bad. Yeah. Most of chat agrees with B. Yeah, pretty much everyone's saying B. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the tier list. So yeah, it is getting pretty cramped in A. I think she should probably kick out Gwen, wouldn't you think? Shouldn't we put her potentially in A and then drop Gwen down to B? Do the Bs need to get lowered to C? I don't think so, because there's a lot of units down here that are going to start filling out the bottom of the tier list. So I don't think we have to put these all down in C tier immediately. I think let's move some of these over. And yeah, part of the reason that we do the tier list in this way, because if not, then we just end up with almost all of the champions being like in A and B tier. So I think Lilia is better than Gwen. So let's put Gwen down in B and let's put Lilia in A. She still might potentially get kicked down, but for right now, I think that's probably solid. Yeah, she still might get kicked out of A, but I think that's pretty good for right now. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Lux then. Lux is one that I don't have at the 6 stars, so I couldn't do a preliminary placement. But as far as where we ranked her in the 5 stars, we put her solidly in A tier. I feel like she might fall a bit, but let's go ahead and look at her in game. All right, so Lux illuminated. I guess let's first look at the 6 star. So each round, the first time you attack, refill 1 mana for each attacking ally and draw a spell. This can be really good with Crown Guard because you normally can attack, level up, and then try to like fill out your board with the extra mana you get, attack again, and end the game. But I think as far as compared to many other 6 stars, this isn't as crazy. So let's take a look. When an ally is targeted or supported, granted Spirit and Impact. Pretty good, giving you some extra damage, extra stats. And then this also helps contribute towards Lux's level up. +1 starting mana, round start, create a Prismatic Barrier. So, barrier in hand if you already have them reduced cost by 1. Pretty good to help get that targeting and also keep your units alive. 4-star, allies have Overwhelm. Really good. This is one of the most important things for Lux. If you didn't have this, you'd have to always be running like Beast Within. Mana Flow, again, really good, so you can try to play Lux immediately. Lady of Light, so we already went over this, giving you some mana back after you attack. As far as bonus stars, 200 gold. Support champs have Dreams of Yordles, so that's okay. Prismatic Barrier has Mana Potion. This is very good, because this is what you're generating every round with your 2nd star power. So this just always being 1 mana cheaper is very good for you. Follows requiring venture with a base cost of 2 or less of Bright Staff. Like, it's kind of crazy looking at this and just, yeah, comparing it to like the Fiddlesticks one. Because for him, all followers get Spirit and Impact. And for here, it's only followers with a base cost of 2 or less get just Spirit. Smoldering Smirk has Stopwatch. This is actually very good. The Smoldering Smirk counts as targeting, so you're giving the units immediately Spirit and Impact, then you're boosting them so they get even better, and then they're just going to essentially kill a unit because it's going to be very fast, or going to be 2 big units. So Lux is very good. I think the 6-star can be quite solid, especially if you go for Crown Guard Inheritance, but I have not played with this one myself at all. I feel the 6-star power still don't understand that power. because normally you kill the enemy before you use that power. The only thing the 6-star allows you to throw a spell like Barrier every turn. Lux is A tier. Her 6-star helps her close out games super quickly. I think somewhere in B. B tier seems good. Bye-bye, Kate. Yeah, potentially. You can also use the mana for combat tricks. Very handy in the early game. All right, let's take a look at the tier list then. I feel like a lot of the champions in A tier are probably better. I think Lux would probably be a B tier champion. I don't actually know if I want to put her above these champions. Somewhere in B, Vayne is probably better still. Yeah, I do like Vayne also better. Bottom B, better than Kate. That's what I was thinking. Above Heimer and Kate, I think. I could see that. Yeah, I kind of feel like let's drop Heimer and Kate to the C tier for right now. And I think let's put Lux right there. I feel like most of these champions are stronger and more consistent than her. And I feel like if we put her up in the A tier, she's just going to get immediately kicked out. How is Caitlyn so low? I mean, she's actually pretty high considering where she was normally placed. Okay, so this is roughly where most people are agreeing. Let's go ahead and go for Misfortune. Now, she's one that we didn't place because we already have a pretty good ranking of where we think she's going to go. As far as her, just with her like 5-star, we had her down in the D tier, but she's probably going to go up in the S tier because everything really comes online. So she's probably going to go up here. But let's go ahead and take a look at her. All right, so Misfortune, the 6-star, while in combat, your spells and skills deal 4 extra damage. It's pretty crazy. Taking a look at the rest of the Constellation, round start, summon a Powder Monkey. +1 starting mana when allies attack, draw a unit. When you summon a 1-cost ally, grant it 2/2. Mana Flow, get an extra mana gem. And as far as bonus stars, reroll in gold. Support champs have Scout. Make It Rain has Charge and Sigil, so extra damage on it. This is also your champion spell. Followers you acquire that cost 2 or less have Studded Leather. And remember, if they're a 1-cost, they get the extra 2/2. Powder Monkey has Skirmishing Saber. Now, she is very, very good, especially with her Relic. So Shock and Awe, when an ally that costs 1 or less attacks, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. This symbol means it's a skill. So this is going to count for her 6-star. So this is actually going to do 4 extra damage. So for each 1-cost you have attacking, they're shooting off a skill that deals 5 damage to the enemy nexus. You can also go for like Spirit of the Brewer, so your 1-cost allies have Overwhelm, Quick Attack, and Fury. And go for like Packed Powder, so that for 1, she's scaling up every round, but then she is also going to be a 1-cost. Misfortune is able to put an insane amount of damage down early, And even if all of your units get blocked and they can't do the damage themselves, the Shock and Awe alone wrecks. Misfortune with her attack deals tons of damage, both before she's leveled and after she's leveled, because it just does tons of damage. Then you also have other units like, for one, a lot of one costs, but also your Crackshot Corsair that's also doing this. She's just able to put down so much damage immediately. And the great thing is, while she is very good, the Shock and Awe and Spirit of the Baru are both powers. And then you also have your Yip's Genius, which is a power. So even if Misfortune is not on the board, you can still normally put a ton of damage down early and end games incredibly quickly, regardless of if you have your champion or not. Misfortune should definitely be S. Very rarely they don't win just by turn 2. Misfortune is my GOAT. Can safely say that Misfortune is S and will remain that tier when everyone's added. Yeah. I think she's the best in the game by far. High S. I don't know if I would say that she's the best in the game, but I would say that she is very good. And let's throw her up in the S tier. Regardless of what happens, I don't think there's any way that she's getting kicked out of the S tier. She's definitely top 5 as far as champions. Biggest Constellation glow up, especially considering where she was at 3 stars, which I still actually was a fan of her then, but a lot of people didn't like her. She is one of the biggest improvements from getting her Constellation. All right, let's put her in the S tier. Not very controversial. Let's go for Morgana. This one could be interesting. So I don't have her 6-star. We couldn't do a preliminary ranking for her. Normally she's put in the S tier because she is just so crazy. Let's see how she does. This was the 5-star tier list, by the way. All right, Morgana, let's take a look at her 6-star. So when you curse an enemy, grant enemies 1 power. Now, you're able to curse enemies a lot with Morgana. If we take a look at her star powers, increase the cost of enemy curses everywhere by 1, so they're going to be harder to get out of. And then when you target an enemy, curse it with shackles. So just anytime you're targeting a unit, you're immediately cursing them. Remember, when you're cursing them, you're granting all of your allies, at least on the board, 1 extra power. Now, you have +1 starting mana around and deal 2 to cursed enemies and 1 to the enemy nexus for each curse in their hand. So this gives you some decent removal and also some okay damage to the enemy nexus. Spellslinger spells cost 1 less. Actually really good. Gives you, or makes it a lot easier to play your Morgana. Mana Flow, get an extra mana gem. Also really good. Bonus stars, Nexus Health and Gold. Support champs have Focusing Crystal. Not bad because you're playing a ton of spells. Your Ascendant gets Double Time Watch, makes it much more playable. And her play effect is really good because you're cursing 2 enemies with shackles twice, but you're also targeting those units. So you're essentially cursing them 3 times. So pretty much whatever you play this on, those 2 units probably aren't being played for the rest of the game. Spells you acquire of Hand Sensor. Again, kind of boring. Starlit Stomper has Bonded Bucklers, so they can give their support champion all of their effects. Overall, some decent upgrades, but just baseline, Morgana is so good. And then the upgrades of getting your spells costing 1 less, mana flow, and then every single time you curse an enemy, which is a lot, you're buffing up your whole board. This is fixing the main issue with Morgana in that she's slow. This is speeding you up dramatically, and you can end games way faster. I think most players don't actually have 6-star Morgana. Yeah, a lot of players do think that they don't like her 6-star because it does look underwhelming. But even though I don't have it, I think this should give you a ton of power and help you end games way faster. I tend to end nightmares on her around 3, 80 to 90% of the time. I think S or high A. Mahira gives your whole board 6 power on summon for the 6 curses, right? Should be something like that. But that's the issue, is really an issue only in modifiers like Scout Scheme. Morgana is A tier, which is crazy to say with how strong she is. There are just a few champions who are powerful. There's no room in her in that tier. Way better than B. High A, she'd get kicked down from S. All right, let's pull up the actual tier list. So I think I would put her right here above Jinx, I would say, and then just shove everything else down. But I don't know if others would agree with that. Yeah, we'll work on a poll. All right, so we'll do that, see what you guys are thinking. So I'm thinking either S tier after Fiddlesticks, so shoving these two down, or, I mean, I guess potentially putting her in the top of A, but like, she's definitely better than Ashe, and I would think even, yeah, I think she's better than everyone in A tier. And yeah, personally, I would think she should go right here. She also gets countered by a full hand. I mean, that normally that happens more when you're dealing with, oh, by the enemy having a full hand. Yes, her hand getting full normally, as long as you're not running chem tech, that's fine. All right, so most of chat is disagreeing with me with putting her here. All right, I guess we will shove down some people in A and actually put Morgana right here. Which, while I would personally disagree with it, still trying to have this be somewhat democratic. All right, let's move on then and talk about Neeko. Maybe start filling out some of our bottom tiers. Yeah, a lot of these champions should actually start to fill these out. All right, so let's go for Neeko. Now, I don't have her at 6 stars, so I couldn't do her preliminary ranking. Where Neeko was last time was the bottom of F for the 5-star. Let's look at her in game and see how she fits. There she is. All right. I guess let's first look at her 6-star. So when allies attack, deal 1 to all enemies and the enemy nexus, increased by 1 for each attacking sub-typed ally. I think this would be pretty good. Should deal a solid amount of damage to enemy units. Normally you're trying to attack with a relatively full board, like normally 3 to 6, even after or even in the first round. So this should give you some decent damage, I would think. Each round, the first time you play a unit with a different subtype than other allies, it costs 2 less. Normally with this and the extra mana you get, you can have like 3 units on the board round 1. So +1 starting mana, game start for each ally in your deck. If it is a subtype, granted impact, so giving you some extra damage. Otherwise, it becomes a shapeshifter, so it gets another subtype. Game start, summon a Green Glade Lookout, gives you the Yordle subtype, and also more cost reduction. And then, yes, the mana flow. As far as bonus stars, reroll in gold. Support champs have Dragon's Tooth, so they count as a dragon, as well as gain the 1/1 Fury. Bonehide Tritail gets the Skirmishing Saber. This is also your big Overwhelm unit, so that's not terrible. And here, all of these subtypes get Studded Leather. Wallop gets Charging Sigil, so it gets a little bit of extra damage. Overall, I think it's fine. I think the 6-star is probably decent for you. But haven't really played with it, not sure. A lot of people are thinking C. She can use Oath. C seems fair. Interesting. I kind of thought she was going to go down in the D tier, to be honest. Because I feel like she's going to get shoved out of C. Because, yeah, I feel like C tier seems a little high. I would also agree with high D. D above Aatrox, high D agree. Okay, yeah, I think we could put her above Aatrox. I think that would be a better spot for her. I think if we put her in C tier, she's just going to get immediately kicked down. All right, let's go ahead and put her there and move on to Norra. Again, not a champion to have at 6 stars, so I couldn't test her. But for her 5 stars, we put her in the C tier. I think she's probably going to go pretty low. So let's go ahead and look at Norra. There we go. Norra's actually the only champion I don't have at 5 stars. So her 6-star, your portals now summon level 2 champions. Okay. When you summon a created ally, grant it 3/1. Game start, when you play a card with a base cost of 4 or more, do a mysterious portal in the top 4 cards of your deck. This is really good. It also goes with base cost, so it's actually quite solid. Game start, summon a disciple. This isn't bad because it's a created unit, so it gets this effect. It counts towards your level up with your Norra. Also, when it transforms, it gives you a draw card, so you can get more portals. So it's actually not bad. Mana flow, get an extra mana gem. Bonus stars, gold. Support champions have portal pals, which I rarely ever have this matter. Whenever I play Norra, this like never factors in, so it doesn't really help you much. Yordle Captain gets Vampiric Scepter. Followers you acquire that cost 4 or more have Ancient Coin, so making them a little bit more playable. This is good because your 2 cost does go off of base cost, or your 2-star. Cosmic Binding gets Charging Sigil. Overall, while Norra is one of the strongest 3 stars, I think as far as her constellation, she's one of the worst, sadly. Sadly, F, the stats aren't impactful compared to other champs. She lacks control. She stomps low-level adventures, but struggle in hard ones, probably D. I have 200 fragments in a Bandle City. Crystal, I still don't want to invest in her. The RNG of pulling champions is nice, but unless you get something with big stats, it's hard to survive. Yeah. Alright, so looking, a lot of you are saying D, but I kind of feel like, shouldn't she just go straight down into F? I feel like she's one of the worst constellations in the game, which is sad because at 3 stars, she's one of the best champions. She has very little scaling. She has very little control. Very little removal. I mean, both her removal and control are pretty much from 1 spell. She's the bottom of the list for sure. I'm like, yeah, looking at other champions, I feel like everyone else is stronger. So let's drop her to the bottom of F tier. I think every other champion is stronger than her at 6 stars. All right, let's move on and talk about Pyke. Now, Pyke is one that we put in the B tier with our preliminary ranking for the 6 stars. As far as 5 stars, we had him in the C tier. I think I would maybe put him in the C tier here, but let's go ahead and look at him in game. Although, another ad's wanting to drop, so you need to quickly go get a drink or go to the bathroom. Go ahead and do that now. I know I could actually use a drink. This is also considering their best builds. Oh. Oh, it's a nice little rest for my throat. All right, less than 10 seconds, everyone should be back. All right, everyone should be back. Let's look at the 6 star and then break down the rest of the Constellation. So your spells everywhere have a lurk. So this is great as long as you have a follower or a unit. Well, a follower or a spell on your top of your deck, you're always going to lurk. So pretty much just stay away from landmarks. When a card lurks, if it's a follower, summon it attacking. So pretty much what we wanted for the Darius effect. This is very, very good for you. Otherwise, draw it. So if it's a champion or if it's a spell, you draw it, which is still decent, giving you some extra draw, but you really want this to hit followers. So that is pretty strong, though, getting free units, especially considering how big they're going to be. Abyssal Might Lurking grants an extra 1/1, so Lurking already gives you 1 power, so now it's giving you 2/1 as far as stats. Since you're trying to lurk every single round, and you're going to be very consistent at it, pretty much guaranteed almost every time, your units are just getting like 2/1 every single round, which is very good. Round start, if you have the attack token, summon a Sharkling. This way you can attack with a ephemeral unit, and for one, this is going to keep scaling with your lurk effect. So this is going to get bigger and bigger throughout the course of the game. But also it's just a unit you can kind of throw away to try to get your lurk off, so you're not sacrificing a unit. Allies everywhere that cost 3 or less are lurkers and have lurk, which again just gives you more lurk effect. Mana flow, 200 gold. Support champions have Mariner's Roost, so 1/1 and then lurker. Under Titan gets quick strike blade, so free attack. This is very important. Any free attack is really good for you because it lets you get your lurk on your off turn. And then with your 6 star, it's giving you either extra draw or another follower attacking alongside of it. So this is actually a pretty big upgrade. Followers of Inquirer and adventures that cost 4 or more have Mariner's Ruse. So everything 4 or more gets 1/1 and lurk, and everything below that gets just lurk. So again, just making sure everything is hitting lurk. The only thing that kind of messes with this is if you get a 3 cost unit that then gets a cost increase like Radiant Plate Armor, then it no longer counts for Lion Weight, and then it also doesn't get the Mariner's Ruse. Other than that niche situation, pretty much everything's lurking. Snapjaw Swarm gets Locket, so you can play this. It can do its free attack, get you your lurk, and then with the Locket, it's not going to die. So that's really nice. Often this means the enemy won't bother blocking it, which means you then have a unit with barrier to block if you need. Overall, a lot of very good upgrades, and Pyke is pretty good. Really good scaling, tons of removal from Pyke himself, and also I like how it's not that champ reliant. Like, he is an amazing champion, he can absolutely dominate, but especially with some of the builds you can go with, you can really just focus on your lurkers and have them do a ton of damage. Bringing up the tier list, he's probably going to go in this range, either filling out the B tier or going down to C. I feel like I would like him better than Caitlyn, so I think I would maybe put him right here. Pyke is C tier, higher than Kate. Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking. C feels good, but unreliable champs. Feels like C tier champs are still quite good. I mean, all of the champs in the Constellation, or all the champs in this tier list, are pretty good. There's not really any that are just flat out bad. I mean, all the 6 stars are still strong champions. He can get overwhelmed pretty easily. In the first couple rounds, you can. All right, I think, yeah, let's put him in the C tier, higher than Caitlyn. I think most people are agreeing for that. Probably end of B for now. I mean, if we put him in the end of B, he's going to get kicked down. So there's not really a point in putting him there when we know he's going to get moved down. All right, so most people are happy with this. Let's keep moving on because this is already well over 2 hours. Let's take a look at Samira. She's another one that I don't have at 6 stars. Previously, we put her in the C tier. All right, so the 6 star, when you gain the attack token, give allies 4 power this round. I feel like this is just a worse version of the Vayne one, because this is only when you gain the attack token. So any units that you get the attack token at the start of the round, you play a unit, they then don't get this buff. So yes, you can trigger this again with like a rally and things like that to try to give your units that extra power. But compared to someone like Vayne, where it's just when you attack, you get that, this just seems like a worse version to me. Taking a look at the rest of the Constellation. The first time you damage the enemy nexus each round, the next cost you play costs 3 less. Really, really good. When you play your 3rd card each round, grant allies 1/1. You're already trying to do this, so giving you some amount of scaling. It's not crazy, but it's helpful. The 4 star, quite good. Draw 1, give it fleeting. When you discard a card, create a copy of it in your deck, and the fleeting counts as being discarded. Also really solid. With Samira, you can run out of things to play, so this helps mitigate that problem. Mana flow, good because you're just a early game aggressive champion. Bonus stars, Nexus Health and Reroll. Support champs have Lost Chapter. Really nice so that you can play your support champ and then play some more of your spells, which is good for trying to level up your Samira, get your 2nd star power going. Stylish Shot has Charge and Sigil, so it actually deals a decent amount of damage. Spells with a 4 or higher cost you acquire in adventures have Forbidden Idol, so Plunder I cost 3 less. This is actually pretty fun. Not as consistent as many of the other big stars of Discovery, but you can get some really good spells you can potentially play for free because they can also roll with other cost reduction. So this is actually pretty fun, but I'll definitely say it can be inconsistent. Flare has Ardent Sensor, so the better one. You're generating these flares from your Samira. So it's a card you can generate, and it's buffing your top deck by 3/3. That's actually pretty impactful. I think overall, Samira is very solid, a lot of good upgrades, but I think her 6 star is really bad. I think if we were just rating the 6 star themselves, I would probably throw it in like the F tier. That being said, haven't played with it, so who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think it's the 6 star especially is bad, but I think Samira overall is solid. I think her whole constellation other than the 6 star is pretty good. Core, a Sammy. Thank you for the follow. Samira is a solid C tier. I think she gets easily removed, slowing you down considerably. Pairing Samira with Demacia for those rally spells is strong. The rest of her Constellation is pretty solid, though, so she's not bad. Yes. Under Caitlyn, I think. Also, Nightmares, you always start with the attack token, so it's wasted. I think C tier is also solid for her. I think could be fine with her under Caitlyn. The 6th star was supposed to help in beating the 5-star run or 5+ runs. Hello, Cora. I think let's put her here. Don't think I'm going to fret too much over her exact placement because we still have a lot to get through and this is taking a little long. So let's move on to Swain. We didn't rank him. He was ranked S tier in the previous tier list. He's probably going to go straight up to S tier. But we'll still quickly go over him in game, but we'll probably try to be brief because we all know. So, when you damage an enemy with a spell or skill, deal the same amount to all other enemies as well. This is exceptionally good and can bypass spell shield by targeting a different ally. Going over the rest of the Constellation, when a unit dies, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. This is any unit, yours or the enemy's. Very good power. The first 3 spells or skills each round deal 1 extra damage for each 5 health the enemy nexus is missing. Very, very good. The more nexus health the enemy has, the more damage you're able to do. Like if they start with 99, you're working them down, you can end up doing a ton of damage. When you damage the enemy nexus, go at the top out of your deck 1/1. With all of your nexus damage effects, this gives you absolutely massive units. Mana flow, really nice. Nexus health and gold. Support champs have Focusing Crystal. Okay. Enraged Fire Spitter has Nomad's Medallion. Actually huge. This makes this very, very good and much more playable. Spells you acquire have Pyromantic Wake. Insanely strong. This also scales with your 3-star, so this damage can go well above the 3 damage. Insanely good. One of the best stars of discovery in the entire game. Pirouette has Yordle Portal, giving you some more manifestation for your regions. Actually, this works out better than you would think, because you can't be like, okay, whatever, maybe a garbage card. Quite often, it actually gets really good cards for you. So actually really good. Yeah, we all know that Swain is insanely strong, and for right now, we'll just throw him in the top of S tier. I don't think anyone's going to fight with that, as far as in chat. Debatably, some other champions might be also fighting for that spot, but for right now, we'll just put him there. All right, next up, we have Taliyah. Taliyah is one that we were able to rank. We put her in C tier, and then previously at the 5-star, she was also in C tier. She might go in C tier again. Let's take a look at her. So the 6-star, when an ally attacks, it plays Threaded Volley, an elemental skill. Your spells and skills deal 1 extra damage for each allied landmark. Taking a look at the rest of the Constellation, game starts summon a Heimerdinger Rock Bear. Allies have 1/1 and Overwhelm. Very nice. Supple Stone. Each round, the first time you play a landmark, refill mana equal to its cost. Very good 4-star. Works a lot like the Lux, the original Lux 2-star, except just for landmarks. Good for letting you fill out your board with landmarks and keep playing other effects. And then you get mana flow. As far as bonus stars, Nexus Health and Reroll. Support champs have stats. Grumpy Rockbear has Phage. This is actually pretty good, making that even better. Landmarks you acquire in adventures have Mana Potion. And then Shapestone, your main combat trick, has Elixir of Sorcery. Now, Taliyah isn't bad. She's very much a solid champion. You can get some good units. Your units are bigger. You have Overwhelm. You're also getting some spells and skills. You're getting these Threaded Volleys going. The main issue is you have no removal at all. The only way you have to protect your units is your 1 combat trick, and you have no control at all. The only thing you have is you can sometimes destroy enemy landmarks. So while she is solid, she's not very versatile. You don't have a lot of answers to what the enemy does. If your one game plan doesn't work, you're screwed. C, D, I think there's good with Relic Landmark. You can copy your own Taliyah, but it's hard to survive the first 3 rounds. I mean, I think I would honestly put her more in the D tier. Right now I'm thinking, like, all of the champions that are currently in C are better than her. And I think some of the other champions we're going to place are also going to be better. I would kind of put her more down here. Because, like, this is one that I've actually played with. And while she is solid, most other constellations outshine her. And she can be good. But again, if anything goes wrong, you kind of have no answers for whatever the enemy throws at you. So the harder the enemy that's going against, yeah, you're probably struggling. I think let's, yeah, move some of these over. Sure, let's place her here for now. I think being around Neeko is pretty good. Might be above, might be below, but I think for right now, let's put her there, and let's move on to Vayne. Now, this is a 6-star I have. Preliminary ranking, we gave her an A, and then for the 5-star, also gave her an A. So let's pull her up in-game. I'm always just blind. Oh, if only I had some sort of search functionality. Oh, there we go. Alright, so Constellation. When an ally attacks, give it 4 power this round. This is really good because this is when you attack, not when you get the attack token, which is a pretty big difference. You can attack often 3 times in a single round with Vayne, and so you can get up to 12 power on specific units. This is excellent. Take a look at the rest of the Constellation. When an ally is equipped, give it Scout this round. So it is temporary, but you don't need that many rounds to win. And this gives you another attack. Round start, if you have the attack token and fewer than 2 equipment in hand, create a golden spatula, granted a random keyword. Really nice. It gives you equipment, potentially every round you have the attack token, but it checks if you have too much equipment, then it's like, nope, don't need it. Really good. Allies with equipment or attachments have 2/2, so pretty much most of your units have 2/2. Mana flow, great, lets you play Vayne round 1. Bonus stars, reroll and gold, excellent. Support champions have stats. Fish Fight has Summoning Beacon, which is fine. Falls require Adventure Speed Wraps, also fine, but then the actual big one that you actually care about is Tumble, has Tear of the Goddess, so it's 2 cost, so you can play Vayne turn 1. If you have Lost Chapter or Hidden Tome, you can immediately play a Tumble and essentially get 3 attacks in the very first round with Vayne, often just ending the game. So Vayne is exceptionally good. One of the best OTK champions. You can normally, just end round 1 and you're very consistent. And I would say you're less susceptible to getting shut down as like a Gwen, but you still have a lot of the same weaknesses as a Gwen. So for me, she's better than Gwen, worse than like Lilia. So for me, I would probably throw her at the top of B tier. Let's do a quick poll. I would say she's better than Gwen, but let's just do a quick poll. All right, go ahead and vote if you think Vayne should be above or below Gwen. I think I'd put her right at the top of B tier, shoving everyone down one. But if more people think Gwen is better, then we'd slot her right behind. All right, right now the majority is saying above, but still could flip. Regardless, we need to move some of these down. Vayne also has a ton of removal. Yeah, that is very true. All right, so above Gwen seems to have it. So let's go ahead and put her here at the top of B. All right, let's quickly move on. Look at Vex. She is a 6-star. We put her in A as a preliminary ranking. Before that, we actually had her in S, but that's kind of because her 6-star is not as impactful as many others. Let's go look in game. All right, so Constellation, her 6-star, whenever an enemy dies outside of combat, so you don't have to necessarily kill it, but when it dies outside of combat, grant other enemies gloom. Really good. This pairs exceptionally well with the 4-star. When an enemy dies outside of combat, so the exact same effect, you also deal 4 damage to the enemy nexus. Wrong button. For the 3-star, we have round start boost all enemies. So if they have gloom, which is very easy with your 6-star, then they all get boosted so that gloom stacks up by an additional one. Your spells and skills deal damage in the form of gloom. Really good, especially since they changed it, so gloom now goes through things like barrier and tough and doesn't get shut down. So that's excellent. Also, this means your Vex, when leveled, doubles your damage if she's on the board. Then you get the mana flow. Bonus stars, Nexus Health and Regen, very good, makes you very survivable. Support champs have Utmost Despair, so they just gloom the entire enemy board, really nice. Pyke gets extra damage in both of its forms. Especially this one is nice because you can chuck this at the enemy nexus. Spells you acquire, damage spells you acquire, have Charge and Sigil rank 4, so 4 extra damage, really good. Family Reunion has Home Turf, excellent. Not only is any Home Turf good, but you can then use this to target the enemy. So you have to, since it's a slow spell, you switch priority so that they have to play something. So you don't have to like play a unit first thing and then get it immediately killed. Overall, Vex is excellent. Very good defensive playstyle. You don't have to rely on your units. You can fully rely on your spells and just immediately kill anything the enemy throws at you. If the enemy has a bunch of units, Vex is going to absolutely destroy them. Very good, and honestly feels like one of the best control champions in the game. Vex is one of the best. She can win against any nightmare. Great, but I don't know if she's any better than low A at this point. Strong competition. Somewhere below Morgana. Feels like one of the best Yordles. I mean, definitely. So I would say Vex is... I would maybe put her behind Morgana. Because I feel like that could be pretty good. Low A or high B for me. She's just slower than Swain. Can get unlucky in shops for good spells. All right, so I think we'll put her... Yeah, in this top of A category. So I think we'll drop some stuff down a little bit early, and we might move it back up. But for right now, we're going to drop some things down. So we're just going to move a lot of this stuff over. Because, yeah, there's so many champions with just crazy 6-stars. So top of A, very good, but yes, it is quite competitive. All right. Move one more. Viego's on auto S. Yeah, we'll have to move everything soon. All right, let's go for Vi, who is decent. I don't have the 6-star, though, so we couldn't rank her. Before we did drop her down to D, which is a little sad. Will there be a VOD of this on YouTube? In a couple different forms, yes. I'll later today work on editing this down to make it as concise as possible. All right, but yeah, so Vi, previously we had her in D tier. Let's go ahead and look at her in game. All right, so her 6-star, when you play a card, grant allies in hand 1 power. This is kind of similar to the Morgana one, where it's pretty simple and straightforward. Honestly, not that exciting, but this not only buffs up all your units, it also can keep stacking up your Vi. So if you want, you could go for like a triple Gatebreaker build with Vi, probably, and just drop her and have her nuke the Nexus. Taking a look at the rest of the Constellation, when you draw a card, grant your strongest ally 2 health and 2 impact. Really good because you can actually build around this. It's not just a round start effect. Game start, draw 2 that cost 2 cards that cost 2 or less. Allies have Overwhelm, so some extra damage. The Overwhelm plus the impact does give you some pretty strong damage. Mana Flow, get an extra mana gem. 20 Nexus health, so she is like more than anyone else in the game. Support champs have Wriggle's Lantern. This is actually pretty good because often your support champs already sit there and do nothing. At least now, while they're sitting there and do nothing, they're stacking this up. So if you do need to drop them, they can actually do a ton of damage. Gotcha gets Charging Sigil. Follows require an adventure that costs 4 or more. Have Ancient Coin. Meh. Mushroom Cloud is Mana Potion, so it's free. That is actually really good because you can generate a lot of these from different spells. Spells, units, things like that. Overall, I think Vi is good, but I think she probably gets outshone by a lot of other constellations. I don't think she... Yeah, I think she's solid, but I think a lot of other ones are just a bit better than her. So I would potentially want to put her in like the top of D tier. Got it perfectly into D, agree with D tier. Okay, then I think let's move some of these over and let's drop Vi right here. All right, next up we have Viego, who again is going to cause problems for us. I mean, I'm going to do 2 things. We didn't bother ranking him because we all know where he's going to go. And honestly, I could just throw him up there immediately, but I'll try to still break him down in case anyone's watching this in the future and somehow doesn't know. But while I explain him, I'm going to run a poll. So while I explain things, you guys can vote, and it's just going to be, do you think Viego is better or worse than Swain? All right, while you guys vote, I'll go and explain the champion and why he's so good. All right, 6-star Viego. The 6-star, when you summon a Encroaching Mist, grant allies everywhere 1 power, but Encroaching Mists also have the effect of when summoned, grant other allied Viegos and other Encroaching Mists everywhere 1/1, so they're also doing that in addition to granting everyone everywhere, including other Mists and Viegos, extra 1 power. Taking a look at the rest of the Constellation, each round the first time you slay an ally and the first time you slay an enemy, you summon Encroaching Mist. So from this alone, you can summon 2 Mists, which again are buffing up everything like crazy. When an ally with 4 or more power dies, reduce the cost of all 4 or more power allies in hand by 1. Because of your 6-star, your Encroaching Mist buffing up all your units. Pretty much this just plays as when one of your units dies, all of your units in hand cost 1 less. That's pretty much how this works after like the first round. All right, so most people said below Swain. Okay. Crush, allies of Overwhelm, incredibly good for you. Mana Flow, get an extra mana gem. 8 regen, insane. Support champions have stats, which also just means that they're going to trigger your 4-star or your 2nd-star power like immediately. Shape of Fear gets stopwatch, so this is burst speed. Really good, because then you can use this as a burst speed attacker or blocker. Shadow Isles followers you acquire in adventures have pickaxe. Very good, because then this just further means that they're going to contribute towards your 2-star. Encroaching Mist has skirmishing saber, also excellent. Overall, Viego is very good. You can often end games in a single round. You can drop him often immediately, level him turn 1. His level up effect is insanely good. You have insane scaling, insane aggression, great removal. He kind of does everything. He's incredibly good. He can run out of steam, but if you go for the right build, even that isn't really an issue. He's insane. He is very, very good. By far one of the best champions in the entire game. But according to chat, they think he is just below Swain, which, I mean, yeah, he's very, very good. So let's drop pretty much all of these by 1 because we're throwing up our Viego right after our Swain. All right, looks good. Let's go for Volibear. He is one that I do actually have. He's one that we put in the low B for preliminary ranking, and then for the 5-star, we sadly dropped him in the D tier. Let's go ahead and look at him in game. All right, so his 6-star, when you summon a Titanic ally, grant them 2/2 for each stack of Sigil of the Storm. This is actually very good because this is a summon effect. But Sigil of the Storm, this gets destroyed when you play a Titanic ally. So destroying it is a play effect, but the 6-star is a summon effect, meaning you can cheese this with different ways to summon units. So it's actually pretty good and better than it looks initially. When you slay a unit, summon 2 Sigils of the Storm. Very good, because this you can kill your own units, kill enemy units. Any of that is solid. When you summon a Titanic ally, it strikes the weakest enemy. Normally, especially with your 6-star, since they're getting buffed up, they are slaying a unit. So pretty much you play a Titanic ally, and it gives you 2 cost reduction towards your next one, and also makes your next one, again, big. In my sights, round start, grant the weakest enemy vulnerable. This can be good in theory, because it lets you be able to grab the weakest enemy and try to kill them for some more sigils. The issue is very early on, you're dropping Titanic units, which are striking and killing the weakest enemy. So often they're dying before you can really benefit from it. But it can be good. Generally, though, it's one of the weakest 4-stars. Mana Flow, excellent. Bonus stars, Nexus Health, and Regen. Great survivability. Support champions. I don't know why this one's done backwards, but it is. But your support champs get extra stats, meaning they can try to hit that Titanic threshold. Valahir's Prophet gets Shadow Totem. Really good for getting an extra Sigil of the Storm. Also, there's an extra unit that can count towards your Volibear with Disciple Shadows. Follows you acquire an adventure that has 6 cost, 6 or more. Get Hardy Rations and Chain Vest. So that means your units, they're often going to be Titanic. They are already going to be getting extra stats from your sigils, but now they're almost impossible to kill because they have regen and tough. So you get great blockers. Tribeless also gets Hardy Rations. This unit, normally bad, but since this gets extra stats from your sigils, it actually is pretty good because it's a cheap Titanic unit you can drop. And with the Hardy Rations, it is a great blocker. Overall, Volibear at 6 stars actually plays really well. He has a ton of removal, decent control, and normally you just drop Volibear like sometimes turn 1, but turn 2 or 3, and you just are playing non-stop Titanic units, which are constantly getting kills, giving you sigils, and it just snowballs. Volibear at 6 stars is actually good. That being said, he's probably in like the bottom half. In my opinion, he is around Pyke as far as how good he is. His 6-star is surprisingly good? Yes. I know it looks worse, but once you actually play with it, it actually feels pretty good. No, it's not done backwards in-game, though. It's only done backwards when you're reading it. I think he's B or C. Pyke territory feels good. Better than Kate. I would probably say so. Seems like he'd be better than Ekko. He has more board space control and bigger stats easier. It's hard to say without really playing Ekko. I think we'll move some of these down, and I think he's roughly around Pyke. I don't think he's all the way... I don't want to put him too high, but I think in this area is pretty good. Because he is solid, but while I do like him and he's one of my favorites, I understand he's not crazy. So I would say Jayce is definitely better. Ekko is probably like, yeah, pretty much all of these are probably better than him, and he's similar to Pyke. Just came back, Swain above Viego. That's what chat thinks. Okay, so we only have 2 champions left. We have Yasuo, so that's going to be fun. And then we also have Yuumi. All right, let's go ahead and look at our Yasuo. We don't have his 6-star, so we can't test it out. We weren't able to do the preliminary ranking. As far as where we previously had him, we had him in the S tier. So he's probably going to go back up in that area again. Let's look at him in-game. All right, so his 6-star, round end, recall stunned enemies. You have a lot of ways to stun, and often you're going to be killing stunned enemies anyways, but this can be really nice, especially early on against some very big units. So in some of the nightmares where they have units that are too big to deal with, the fact that you can be recalling them is good. This also pairs quite well with Yasuo's Relic, where recalled enemies cost more. So Yasuo is already really strong. This just helps deal with, or gives you some even extra removal. Also, this makes you less champion reliant, because if you don't have Yasuo on the board, then the units weren't going to die anyways. So the 6-star seems solid. For your other star powers, 3-star, round start, stun the strongest enemy. Solid, simple, good. When an ally strikes, granted 1 power, small amount of scaling. Dragon's Rage, when you summon an ally granted Fury, it's a dragon. Doesn't really matter for most of your units, but this is very good for Yasuo because he gets a bunch of kills. So this actually gives your Yasuo crazy scaling. Kind of the same with Never Dull. Mana Flow, really good. Just letting you get your Yasuo on the board turn 1 if you're using his champion relic. Next, Stealth and Gold, solid. Support champs have when I'm summoning stun the strongest enemy. Also good. Excuse me, my throat's dying. Talking for 3 hours straight. Will of Ionia has Mage's Handbook, so when you play a spell, reduces cost by 1. This is also pretty good. Normally your will is just sitting in hand until you really need to play it. And so, because of that, often it's going to be getting some cost reduction. So it's actually not bad. Spells you acquire in adventure have Mana Potion. Decent. Yeah, it's fine. And then Blade Twirler has Warding Charm. This actually is big because this is your main source of damage and your main win condition outside of Yasuo. So it getting a little bit of extra protection is actually really good. So for Yasuo, very good champion. He probably should be in like around the S tier. So at least playing Yasuo and Morgana both at 5 stars, I've actually been giving the lead to Yasuo. So I actually like him better. Normally, before then, I would actually give the lead to Morgana. But yeah, I like Yasuo. I think I could put him at the bottom of S and actually maybe kick Jinx down. Yeah, better or worse than Jinx is probably a decent call. I think an ad is going to drop soon, but I'm going to drop a poll. So while you're in the ad break, go ahead and do the poll. All right, pretty much it's just should he replace Jinx? All right, regardless of what you choose, we're going to have to drop some of these lower. All right, also ad dropped, and oh, it's really close, actually. It is very close. Probably have to adjust a lot of these more. All right, one last champion, and I'll be perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Samira is very good. If you just want her, especially at 5 stars, she's excellent. And honestly, all the champions at 6 stars are good. So just because we have to rank some champions lower, it's just because we think the other champions are better. All right, so champ voted for Yasuo to kick out Jinx, which I get. And now we just have Yuumi. Honestly, I kind of just stopped moving everyone because I didn't want to move everyone again. She might fit in there, but that's not necessarily where I think she's going to go. Anyways, Yuumi, I don't have a 6 star. I couldn't rate her. Beforehand, our last tier list, we had her... Goodness, I am struggling to see. Oh, there. Okay, B. She's in B tier. Because she is pretty solid, and she's honestly probably around this. But let's go take a look at her in-game. Alright, so Yuumi, her 6 star, round start, grow all allies to the strongest allies stats this round, which seems pretty crazy. As far as the rest of the Constellation, allies have faded. When you target a faded ally, granted an additional 1/1. Also, this means that normally faded just gives you 1/1 the first time they're targeted, but now every time you target them, they get 1/1. It's just the first time they get an extra 1/1, so they get 2/2. But you can keep targeting them over and over again, and yeah, they'll still grow in stats. Game start, summon 2 random 1-cost Poros. Good attach targets. When you target an ally, give it barrier this round. One of the best 4 stars in the game. This is great. You're already about targeting. You can protect your units like crazy. Really good. Mana flow, get an extra mana gem. Also solid since you're an early game deck. You want to put the pressure on as much as possible. Bonus stars, next to Health and Gold. Support champs have bonded bucklers. Not bad, because if you have a unit with a whole bunch of really good keywords, you can then give those over to another unit as well. Tiny shield, spear, and gem. So these are all 3 spells that you're able to generate. All of them have Hextech Fabricator. Not bad. Falls require and adventures have Warmog, so regen, so they can actually be decent blockers. And then 1 cost Poros have an additional item. And remember, you're generating multiple of these at the start of the game, and then you can generate more of them, like through other effects or things you buy. And this just says additional item, not additional common item. So they just get an extra item. Overall, I think Yuumi is very good. She can end games very quickly, and also she is some of the best scaling in the game. She has some limited removal, not really much control, but your units, they are very hard to kill because they get massive stats, they get barrier, and also some of them are going to get regen. Overall, I think Yuumi is pretty good. She's in the running for the best 4 stars, yes. As far as where she is here, I think I would maybe move Gwen back up to B tier, and I think we would maybe put Yuumi there. Like, low B is possible, but I kind of think I'd prefer Gwen. Because, yeah, I think she is solid. So she's in that range. All right, I think let's go like that. And so we have a perfectly balanced tier list. We'll have to do something different for future patches. Again, the reason I like this is otherwise all of the champions are just going to end up primarily being like A, B, or maybe C. And so otherwise, they're not really going to... Otherwise, the tier list doesn't really work as well, in my opinion. It's just everyone's in the same tiers. And so we have a lot of tiers that don't get used. And for the argument of adding extra tiers above it, I mean, if it's tier list, the power of everything is in relation to each other. And so adding extra powers, like, sure, it makes people feel better about their champion, but you're still comparing them all directly together, so it kind of doesn't really matter. So I think this is a pretty good ranking for how the champions rank up to each other. Sure, I think some people might want a champion to be slightly higher or lower, but in general, I think this is a pretty good estimation for where champions are. Now, again, this being said, for probably like the millionth time, all of the champions are solid at 6 stars. They're all strong at 6 stars. So just because we have champions lower doesn't mean, oh, they're a trash champion, you shouldn't invest in them. Honestly, several of my favorite champions are at the bottom of this tier list. Like, I think Volibear, Pyke, and Caitlyn are 3 of the most fun champions in my opinion. So just because champions are low doesn't mean they are bad. It just means we think some of the other champions are a little bit more crazy than they are. Yeah, Norra is one of the best 3-star champions. Sadly, with the Constellations, she didn't really get as many increases as many other champions. All right, so I think this is pretty good. Thank you for all joining me as we were trying to get this together. Do value guys' input. Now, I need to go edit this all together for a YouTube video, but thank you all for hanging out with me for a bit. We'll be streaming like the rest of this week because we have like Wednesday and Thursday that we always stream, but then Friday is the new monthly challenges, so we'll be going through those as well. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. If you've missed any part of this, there will be VODs up later, and yeah, I'll probably just do tier list maybe every couple of weeks, although we'll have to do something different. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. Hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.